All right, we should be live. Good evening, everybody. I might have messed up the tagging for the episode, so just bear with me a quick second here while I double check that. Yep, we're good. I'm starting later. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually see. Um, I Yeah, sorry. I just got a message from someone which I noticed as I went through. But yeah, I'm noticing because of Friday I'm currently in the office, and so it actually makes it quite difficult for me to start at 7 because I need to get home first of all. But then there's also like making dinner and stuff like that. So quite literally, I went from home to dinner to getting ready to stream. I did take a small break just because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and I wanted to make some tea, which I do have in front of me. But it is actually probable that for the foreseeable future, the Fridays will probably start sooner, closer to 8 than 7. I'll do my best to try and keep things consistent, but in this case here, I'm actually noticing that I'm rubbing up against some just hard deadlines. However, I should notice that that's not going to be a permanent state of affairs because it looks like they're changing the rules on hybrid work again, and it looks like basically everybody's supposed to come in 2 days of the week. We will get to Out There Oceans of Time, but I figure I can at least vent for a little bit while people go through. This is absolutely astonishing to me that they're doing this. This is, if you're curious how I feel about various hybrid schemes. I mean, I think everybody has kind of read just the different studies. I think people kind of have their own feelings about how work from home works and all of that. And I will go so far as to say, like, in some of the interactions I've had with people, I can definitely see where there's a drop in productivity. And I also get the impression from a couple of managers, they're pretty good at not sort of talking about HR problems. But one thing that I have noticed is that there were a couple of people who seemed to be relying on, oh, I'm having internet difficulties as an excuse for not getting stuff done for a while. And the answer was pretty clear from management, is that if you can't, like, if your internet is not able to sustain you remotely, now that the option of going back to work is there, you need to be going to the office. But it seems that they've now mandated that everybody's going to be back at least part of the time. But the thing that's crazy about this, and I think the thing that really shows they're not thinking things through, is that, like, where I'm at, they're definitely looking to lower their costs in terms of like real estate. And there had been some talk about hybrid environments to begin with, like before the pandemic, because of, just as a way to, to sort of maximize the use of the office space. Like, I used to have a dedicated office. That's definitely not going to be true moving forward. So I think my boss probably isn't going to have a dedicated office, to be completely honest. But yeah, like, I don't want to make this too big of a thing, but like, if the point of a hybrid work environment is so that you can basically sustain the workforce you have with less space, it makes absolutely no sense to have the buildings, effectively vacant, because I think people have been pretty clear that they prefer working from home. So to have these 2 days, to have quite literally your entire workforce crammed into a smaller space, and then for the rest of the week to have the building unused, is possibly the most inefficient setup they could have chosen. My trick used to be that I would go in on Thursdays and Fridays because most people are not going to be around during that. And so, my worries about catching something are considerably less. And, I basically get a floor to myself, which is wonderful. But it seems that they've decided to reach in again and decree that everybody's there. I have to assume that that's going to change because, like, it just, if the logic doesn't match for them, surely the realization, the fact that there are just simply not enough people will drive it through. But anyways, that's my story for you today. I kind of wanted to show a trailer for something too, but maybe we'll hold off on that. I'll at least get out there up. We do seem to be live and have quality options and such. Should have done the trailer while the loading was happening. Okay, so we'll be continuing the save file that we had before. Now, we did play Quake last week, so it's been a couple weeks since I've done this playthrough. But if I recall correctly, we went back to, it's not my home planet, but at least one of my crew members' homes, found it devastated, and we did what we could to rebuild things. It does seem to have put us on a quest line, which will take us even further from the great evil that we're supposed to deal with. But I kind of made a choice that I was going to deal with the side quests first, and so I've decided that, you know, I'll commit to that choice, and we'll see where the playthrough takes us. But I'm going to need to just wake up a little bit. Like I said, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. And then we'll just try and figure out a few of our next steps. My hope is that we can get the tasks done quickly, while still, while still sort of seeing everything that the game has to offer. Oh dear. Okay. So I guess my question is, what do I want to do on this world? Well, we do have something for the hull. Apparently we could do an expedition as well. Although it looks like we already did this, if the check mark's any indication. Sorry, this is actually something I kind of want to check for myself. So if you can just give me a second here. I know you all can't see the YouTube video, but I should have... Actually, you know what? That should be on Twitch too. My apologies. I should have maybe started a little more prepared, but given that this is a resource management game, the idea of wasting resources, interesting. Sorry, I'm just seeing how this thing went. I think this was one of these cases where I actually beamed the ship into... Yeah, no, we definitely... I almost lost a major crew member there. Oh, wait, no, we lost Sergei. Okay, so we spent Omega to revive him. So I'm just checking at the video right now, so... so it says the objective was lifeboat. Okay, so I'm leveling up Nyx. Sorry, this is the worst possible way of streaming the radio version of the broadcast from 2 weeks ago is probably not not that entertaining. So I'm going to make a guess here that we don't have any option. Like, there's nothing else to do in terms of the expedition. There is one more thing which I would like to check out, which is whether or not we extracted anything from the planet. Because if we didn't, I think it would actually make some sense to... Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, no, okay. So we've got minerals that we got off of the surface. Okay, so I did seem to wrap up there. Now, my guess about... So if I did this planet the way I normally did, I could check the VOD on this, but honestly, I've wasted enough time looking at what happened. Normally, I will use the drill after visiting a planet. So we're gonna drill now. This is mostly so I can take advantage of the iron. But yeah, so hull's recovered. We'll need to get some more fuel. I'm not too worried about oxygen because we basically just need to visit one garden world to be able to get what we need. But yeah, we're going to take off. And what else do we have in the region? So I can't remember if we already visited Esau or not. Sorry, this will be the last time I check the VOD. Because there's no need for me to go to a second rocky planet. We got what we needed from that. But what I am curious about, essentially what I want to avoid, is wasting the oxygen and fuel from a actually, I guess it's the Esau system, so everything's Esau. All right, so Sergey's asking Nyx about God. Okay, cool. So we have not visited the civilized planet yet. I am slightly curious if the civilized planet's going to get us some oxygen. Okay, we'll start by exploring the city. We decide to use the local means of transportation to move about this large city. We select an overly large electric bicycle rickshaw, but the drivers seem stressed. Though we can't understand what they're saying, they act incredibly aggressively towards every vehicle they encounter. Irritated, they decide to pass the person in front of them, right in the center of an intersection. The ensuing accident is so violent that our group is scattered to the four corners of the avenue. Continue on foot. Oh! Sergey's left the crew. That should be a game over then. But weren't people supposed to heal off of... Alright. I won't question it. What do we do? What do we want? Nothing. This was just a pure kick to the nuts. Well, not entirely. We can still recruit someone good. So, achievement unlocked, worst contact. Recruit in a big city. Okay. So we'll take off. Now again, I'm expecting the game to end at this point because it says if you lose Sergei, you know, that's it. That's game over. And yet this doesn't seem to have occurred. Okay. So I'm going to continue through the kind of the log that we've got here, in this case going to Mythical Earth. Now, I either want oxygen or I want fuel. So there's two priorities that I'm working with right now. Either obtaining oxygen, which would come from Garden Worlds, or I want to be grabbing fuel, which would be coming from gas giants. So I made a series of notes to help me out with this. In fact, I should take a second and get get my pencil out. But so this is a white dwarf, which would give us one gas giant, one rock world, one garden world, and it also seems to give us save points. Now I'm actually going to resist saving here because if it really does turn out that the loss of Sergei is gonna take us out, I'd prefer to be a little more cautious moving forward. So what I'll do is I'll grab fuel first, then oxygen. Okay. And again, normally I would be saving, but in this particular case, I want a little more certainty as to the fail states of the game. Especially given the fact that we gave up an Omega to save that character. I'm a little miffed that it turned out that way, but I'm not gonna like throw a tantrum. Now I don't exactly need to drill right now. I'll do one.
Equipment damaged.
It'd be nice if I could save some oxygen, but I'm not quite sure what I want to give up to get it, so... I'm trying to get another read on I'm going to see if I can find something about that rule in the... I don't think there's a manual for this game, but I'm wondering if there's something written in the discussions or the guides. This says official Out There Oceans of Time guide, and yet I do not see, I do not actually see any developer markers on this. Now that doesn't mean that it's not by a developer, just... Next. Crew member's health, this depletes it to 0. Crew member is lost permanent except for Nyx and... I'm assuming Sergei. So this feels like it covers the stuff that's obvious from the tutorial, but not, it doesn't actually help. Somebody asking in all capital letters, how do you something save the game? I don't know if you can turn this off, but Steam reports all perceived profanity as hearts. Okay, yeah, so there is an official, it does turn out that that is in fact the official guide. What we plan for expeditions. Hello, Takri, how you doing? What we have planned for expeditions. Hello, many of you are wondering about the withdrawal of stamina compared to the beta. We removed the energy from the beta because it was preventing players from exploring planets, which is why the expeditions were created in the first place. We're currently reworking the entire expedition mechanics to make it more challenging, engaging, and rewarding. We hope to implement these changes as soon as possible, but it will take some time to make them, and therefore they will not be available in the next upcoming patches. However, we will keep you informed as soon as there is news. Interesting. So actually, I realize this probably comes off as more smug than I want to, but I think that's more or less the reasoning that I said, here's probably why they got rid of stamina, which is that when you're playing a game all about space exploration, you do not want to create an impediment to exploring planets. But yeah, it does sound like they're not necessarily happy with the way it's currently implemented and are actively working on it. You're looking at the deck builder bundle and you have most of them already. Yeah, that's I tend to find that a lot with Humble stuff. The tricky part is that I assume that most of the people who watch my stuff like already own the thing that I cover, or they're happy to well, at least the YouTube stuff. I know on Twitch there's generally like new stuff that's found, but like if somebody's checking out Cultist Simulator, I'm going to assume it's because they already know about Cultist Simulator and they're just looking to see someone play the game. So, you know, I'll be honest, like the big reason, so I'm actually not personally that fond of Humble Bundle, the company. And I mean, I've had this opinion for a while, but especially their more recent behavior has kind of made me feel about this way too. But like the thing is that I used to have an affiliate status with the Epic Games Store, and they actually had a really good program. And because it's the internet and people, you know, are the way that they are, there's tons of opinions about whether or not I should have had the Epic Store. And, oh, I'd love to support your stuff if only you didn't do the Epic Store. So it's like, okay, fine. So, you know, I don't feel great about Humble. But, you know, people have pretty clearly said, you know, I want to do this, but I don't want to do it with Epic. So I open up the Humble thing. And of course, you already know what the punchline is. It's like nobody uses the Humble affiliate link, which is fine. I mean, I don't mind that people don't do that. Everybody's got an affiliate link. Everybody's got something to sell you. There's actually, I think, Decree, you're going to be happy about a couple of the changes I'm making to the videos. And well, I'll say it. I've decided I'm really tired of doing the YouTube thing. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do YouTube videos. But like there's somebody who I knew who's quite successful on YouTube. We're not really in touch anymore. They are actually a bit of a jerk. So I kind of hit my limit. But at the time, you know, they were really insistent about the call to actions, right? Like and subscribe and so on and so forth, and how important that is. And I think even YouTube encourages you to those call to actions. But the fact of the matter is that I don't even have a profile picture on my YouTube channel. And people have found my stuff. People have enjoyed it, you know, perfectly fine. So, like, why be like every other channel, right? It does seem to have turned out. Like, people do seem to follow through on stuff like that. But, like, especially when I build those playlists with the idea of people being able to, like, you know, being able to watch those things in big sequences every half hour, somebody asking you to leave like a comment or something like that. I don't know. That feels that definitely feels pretty annoying. And I just die a little inside every time I say something like that. Like, I try to be genuine about it. I try to be grateful for the comments that I get. I really love the fact that you comment so regularly. And there were a couple people who definitely like left a comment on every video, it felt like. But I don't know, like, especially if you watch them in big groups, do you really need somebody reminding you every half an hour to like follow and subscribe? Like, no. So I'm going to stop doing that. But anyways, sorry, why did I get on this? Oh yeah, the humble thing. So like, again, I'm happy to have an affiliate link. My view has always been that if somebody's going to wind up making a purchase that they would have done otherwise, that's a chance for me to get a little extra money. As it happens, the old contract with Humble was that if Humble put them in a bundle, Weather Factory didn't get any money off of those because Humble was the original publisher. But I believe ownership of the game has now transferred to Weather Factory, and so they do get paid from those bundles. So one of the reasons why I didn't bring up the deck builder right away was I actually wanted to make sure that the developer was getting money out of that. But yeah, in any case, I realize it can sound really crummy to have somebody like complaining about people not using the Humble link and stuff like that. And, when it comes to stuff like the deck builder bundle, that is actually a chance for the game that is currently being played to be bought at a fairly inexpensive price. And of course you can, donate to charity. You can send the money to the developers. There's the option to send some money to me, and you don't get the option to send money to Humble anymore. They force you to give them money. But yeah, in any case, that the thing I'm a little more miffed about was more the idea. It was more about the idea that there was something I went out of my way on the basis of people asking for it, and then finding out that, the epic one was actually used far more than the Humble one. So that's life. You got Cult of Simon for the first time in a Humble Choice set, but you ended up buying the expensive TRPG set, so I think I offset it. Nice. The other thing that's actually nice about this too is there's a lot of people who got Cult of Simulator through Twitch Prime. And of course, they're sort of left high and dry as far as the DLC are concerned because Twitch doesn't have a game storefront anymore. And so as a result, the bundles like that are a chance for people to sort of pick up a copy of the game inexpensively. And hopefully that's a way that people who want to experience the DLC but feel kind of bad paying full price could... maybe that's a way that they can get it at a price that they think is worth it. By the way, I do apologize. I am still looking for the I am still looking on the discussions. Definitely mentioning a few bugs, but it's like, oh, here we go. After 17 hours later, hello. First, your game is amazing, and I'm surprised at how you managed to improve a perfect Out There Omega Edition game, and I love Out There Oceans of Time from the first screen. All of the new elements improve the game very well, and the new graphics hit the ground. Your artists make an amazing job, as well as all Okay, so this is clearly not English as a primary language. I hope that my comments will help you fix the problems existing in the current version. This was from October 10th, 2021, so it's possible these have been fixed. In one game, I completed all the story quests, but I ran into one error. Sergei died as a result of a text event, but the game didn't end. He was still involved in cutscenes. In the next long game, I traveled from one planetary system to another, trying to visit as many planets as possible. Unfortunately, at some point of the game, the interface disappeared from all expeditions levels, and it became impossible to complete this game element. The third error that occurred was sometimes it was not possible to throw away the resources. Finally, I would like to write that it seems to me that a number of the text quest is much smaller than in the first Out There Omega Edition, but maybe that is just my impression. I hope my comments will help you fix the problems existing in the current version. Greetings with love, Robert. Hello, Roll. Thank you for your feedback. It will indeed help us to correct the bugs. And about the bug on Sergei, do you remember in which text event he died? During the expeditions, the interface disappeared. Could you still move? What elements did not appear? After how long did the problem occur? I do not remember exactly what quest it was. I'm not sure, but it's something about a revolution or a fight between two groups. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do, because it sounds like the way this game works. Now, okay, in fairness, I'm being kind of unfair here because I'm really curious about the which TRPG are you talking about? Because now I want to know if I can get in on this. Oh wait, you're talking about the lady afterwards, right? So I'm gonna load the last save. Yeah, I had no idea that you got the big box version. My God, yeah, that definitely must have been costly. And I totally get where you're going with that. I think one of the things that the lady afterwards I think one of the things they were trying to do was be something like a little bit more of an accessible RPG. So essentially for the type of people who didn't who wouldn't normally play a role-playing game, but would be okay with some kind of like a murder party. Because like if you think about it, right, murder parties are basically LARPing for like normal people. I've been to one of them. I mean, it is kind of funny to be, I think I was like 16 or something like that. And it's like a 16-year-old pretending to be like a CEO or something like that. You're like, as far as I was concerned, I didn't know how money worked, let alone companies. But yeah, I this is actually one thing that's kind of cool about Weather Factory. Now, I mean, again, it's tricky for me because I want to like minimize the amount of like expensive stuff that just exists for the sake of existing for me. But it's really neat to see how they've been able to do these premium products that are like just beautifully handcrafted, right? And that there've been enough takers for them to make that viable. I don't know if the Locksmith's Dream, like the like getaway that they're doing, I'm not sure if that's met with the kind of success that they found for the lady afterwards. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that approach because, like, obviously, you've got on one side independent games which are like they're sort of almost at this race to the bottom, and there's a lot of articles talking about how you should not underprice your game because it's not just that it makes it harder for everyone else, but like it is a bit of a signal in terms of a lack of confidence in terms of the quality of the game. And then you have on this other side of the spectrum, right, this incredibly weird narrative card game that's able to charge a fairly significant amount for things like, you know, a tarot deck or like a handcrafted box of like, you know, I think there was like scented candles and things. It's a modified Call of Cthulhu with some interesting choices for changes and no lore at all. They just barely mention stuff from the game, and a lot of it's just making up. Oh dear. Fair enough. Yeah, I will confess I've never seen it. I don't even have like the digital PDF of it. But then you already know my dilemmas in terms of you already know my dilemma in terms of finding people to play RPGs with, so. Yeah. I wonder how much of a conscious decision that was, to be honest. Okay. So, I'm sorry to do this, but I just learning from the discussions that it is apparently possible to complete the game without the presence of Sergey. I figure it's probably better for me to just reload at the previous save and lose a little bit of progress as opposed to go like several sessions through and then discover, oh hey, you're never getting him back. It was supposed to fail, but it didn't. So I don't know. Maybe we'll just say Sergey died on the old planet or something like that. There's way more lore in the game itself, and you know how the game is with that in the first place. Yes. Well, that's fine, because all you just need to do is do a series of YouTube videos, and a bunch of people are going to come in and let you know their opinions, whether you want it or not. I should be a little careful. I mean, obviously, you know my feelings on this decree. I do also need to recognize that the worst thing that can happen is not necessarily backseating or anything like that. The worst thing that happens is either being ignored or people just being outright, or people being outright rude. Both of those have happened in the past. So I don't want to be too salty about it, but. But yeah, that's the real answer for lore stuff. Okay, I think I get hafnium. Or wait, does it say where I get hafnium? I'm sorry, okay, rare. Yeah, found on rocky planets. Okay. And I'm gonna make a guess that we've already gone to that source. So here we'll visit the red dwarf. Half an hour in and ready to go. Actually, tell you what, because I've had this on hold for a little bit, there is one last thing that I wanted to show everyone. And I'm sure most of you have seen this. But for those of you that haven't, we talked about this on Wednesday. And now we can talk about what it really is.
Reanimate!
Looks like they've got it handled.
And
me? Well, I've got somewhere to be.
so a nice little tease for yet another announcement for Crypto the Necrodancer. What was I gonna say? Oops, sorry. Yeah, so this was the item that they were teasing for a while. Algrins, I'm kind of in the same boat. I've not actually done Crypto the Necrodancer on stream, I think, but obviously I'm a huge fan of Brace Yourself. I'm really happy that it seems like people have been sort of warm to the reception. Actually, there's a data thing I could show, but maybe we'll show that another time. But I like the fact that there's mod support for the DLC because you can make your Necrodancer enhancer. But I'm not entirely sure I needed more things to kill me in that game, though. You love rhythm games and you tend to do pretty okay at them. I have Necrodancer, but you haven't got around to playing it. Oh, Takri. I mean, you should play it because it's a good game and you'll enjoy it. But if you want another excuse, Brace Yourself was nice enough to actually invite me out to Vancouver and hang out with them. I got a chance to visit their offices off of the Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade streams I do. So I have not actually played the Zelda one on because I don't have a Switch. But yeah, if the fact that it's a really good game is not enough to, well, I think it's a good game. Obviously, everybody's experience is going to be different. But in addition to the fact that I'm very fond of those developers and I like supporting Canadian developers, they were super nice to me, and they are a very cool company in my opinion, who I also happen to know have supported some other game developers that I think highly of. I have a fun story, but it's not one I want to tell on broadcast, so maybe I'll DM you one. But yeah, that's in addition to it being a game that you'll probably enjoy. I figured I would do the I like supporting people who I like angle too. But yeah, there are a lot of other games. At some point I should do Necrodancer on stream. I also totally unrelated to Out There, but we are catching up on some stuff that we've done before. So I've had a pretty good round for reading lately. Oh, that is so wasteful. Wait a minute. Wasn't this full at some point? Oh, that's right. There was a Divinity module that we got. Okay. Good Lord. Have you been playing it on stream? I haven't actually seen as many tweets. Mind you, I haven't been on Twitter that much, so the fact that I haven't seen your tweets probably doesn't mean that much. But is that just something you've been playing in private, or is that something you've been doing on stream? I haven't done City Skylines on stream, but I have done, or sorry, the PC version. I have done it on console though. It was actually the first and so far the only console game that I've streamed. I should do more console games because like the way I've got my setup, I actually finally own a TV now. I've not owned a TV pretty much since I left home. Like I've had a monitor. You play it on stream once a week, but you did take some time off recently because it was really hot. Well, you are always really hot. No, I completely get it. I mean, I took Monday off for the holidays, so. But the wonderful thing, it is the most decadent kind of streaming that I can do because I don't actually have a proper TV stand, but I have a lot of I have a lot of books that I'm probably never some of those I'm not gonna read again. It was all right. I like I was saying, I caught up on some reading, and I got a surprise book today, which just gives you an idea of how reckless I am with either finances or books, I suppose. But I will confess I sort of caught up on sleep, and then it sort of got away from me again. So we'll see if we can manage. But yeah, I set up the TV, but I've set it up in my bedroom. So like the TV is at the foot of my bed, and its controllers are wireless. So I just kind of get to lie back in bed, staring at the screen, and if I'd be broadcasting that way, essentially just completely decadent. Blah. Whereas at least here, I need to be, upright in a chair and somewhat engaged with the game. But yeah, I actually really liked City Skylines on console. I was surprised at how well it worked. And I mean, again, one thing I've always been bothered by for various fandoms is how much people seem to define themselves through not liking or like just generally kind of crapping on stuff. Because it seems to me like, so in this case, I was talking about how beautiful City Skylines is, and how much I enjoyed how something that you would normally assume is something that could only be played on like keyboard and mouse, how that's translated so well to controller, and then like immediately. Okay, so it looks like it's getting disconnected in some weird way. So I'm just going to take a second here to see if I can figure out what caused that to disconnect so it doesn't happen midstream again. I'm just going to take another second. I'll admit that's a little alarming that it can just get knocked out like that, because it doesn't feel like any of this stuff is loose. Excuse me. Okay. 45 minutes in, and we've actually made negative progress on the game. But yeah, anyways, so, I don't know, like, having people kind of come in and be like, it looks better on PC, when I'm kind of talking about, how nice the game looks on console. It's kind of like, come on, guys, like, can we not, like, is it not enough to just say, wow, it's wonderful that there's a whole bunch of new people who are able to appreciate this game? I don't know. Like I said, it'd be nice if we could sort of define our enjoyment of things through our enjoyment, as opposed to, as opposed to just sort of defining ourselves in opposition to things, or, criticizing it to sort of seem informed or intelligent. But it is what it is. But yeah, book-wise, so I got through a bunch of books. I have two out of the library, which I need to get through. But I was talking about calculus and how it would be nice if schools put a little bit more emphasis on teaching linear/matrix algebra, because it kind of seems to be more important and relevant today than maybe people appreciate. And quite literally this morning, I went to my mailbox, and there's a pretty sizable package in the slot, and I open it up, and I'm like, oh, that's right, I ordered a matrix algebra textbook. So there you have it. For those of you who read the sort of stuff I do, it is Abadir and Magnus Matrix Algebra from Econometric Exercises, first in the series. And man, are they taking their time getting the series out. But this is actually not a bad one. So for those of you who do, like, if you're doing, I used to know a few people who were kind of like going through econ programs in school, and they were planning on doing graduate school, and then probably they hit like the 4th year course, and they're like, oh god, this is hard. But the thing that's really nice about this one is that it is a mathematics textbook, but it is geared towards econometricians who are going to need to know this stuff. And it's formulated as sort of like a series of exercises that are fully worked through. So as opposed to the sort of math textbooks where you're only going to get like the odd numbered problems, or, you know, you have lots of passages of like, this is left as an exercise to the reader. Like, they're fully worked through problems, and that's how you wind up learning the subject. And I think that's a nice approach, particularly for that subject. So it is one that I've actually read before, and it's one that I wanted as part of my library. As far as like a linear algebra textbook is concerned, I actually like Sheldon Axler's Linear Algebra Done Right. But I think that book recommends itself as sort of the second book on linear algebra. And the other one that's nice is Schaum's Linear Algebra, which also takes sort of the worked exercises approach. Which is weird, because you think like Schaum's guides are going to be like a kind of a second, an also ran. And then the other textbook that I think gets used a lot is Gilbert Strang's, because his MIT online course is really popular. And he seems like a really good instructor. I have not actually gone through the whole course, because like I've already done it in a couple of different forms. But I probably should, because it's been a while since I've had to like really sit down and like work through the basics all the way back up. I probably could not prove the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, because I remember struggling with that way back when I first did it. But I'm probably speaking Greek, so let's go on an adventure. Okay, so I definitely want to be bringing my linguist. And then I suppose it's a question, bring Alib or Pagustan? Let's bring Pagustan just because of the extra health. Don't think we need plants right now. I can definitely work with a lock-picking kit. T-set's kind of tempting. We'll go for lock-picking kits. But yeah, I'll confess, I've never really gone beyond like a weird little hamlet or whatever it's called in City Skylines. I tend to like start cities a lot, but I don't really follow through, so. If you want to give me your best city building tip. The other thing too is that I really, like, I feel like on some things I can have a decent sort of eye for design. But for City Skylines, my cities tend not to look very beautiful. You get to the second to last mile. I had no idea that there were. I had no idea that there was like an end to the mile. I mean, I guess there has to be an end to the milestones, but like, it feels weird because I don't know. Like, it feels like there shouldn't be. You're probably better than me, so. So as usual, we're kind of running through the planet, exploring what we can, preferably avoiding. What in heaven's name is the skull about? You know, where I can, avoiding taking damage, but it's clear that I'm going to have to pass at least one of the threats. So makes me glad I didn't bring the low health character. And again, we have the option of healing, but if I can, I would like to explore as much as I can before we start using up skills. Steel beams form a gossamer structure adorned with clinging vegetation that blows in the wind. It's not a terrestrial structure, but rather a ship that crashed here, possibly eons ago. So we can attempt repairs for a blueprint, explore the surrounding area for an object, or avoid the wreck entirely. Let's try repairs because I do like blueprints. Let's get Pakistan working on that. Subspace reactor technology blueprint has been added to the database. Okay. I'll go for it, but... Well, there's the objective, so... Our expedition arrives in a large open-air mine. The minerals here are abundant, and the veins glisten under the starry sky. A veritable treasure trove. However, there are miner drones here. It would seem a nameless interstellar corporation is farming the area's resources, and yet we haven't come across a civilization. Is the corporation plundering the planet? Have these robots been working here long? Can we take our share without provoking them? Figure out who's running the operation. Our xenolinguist follows the near imperceptible trail back to a command center. There, lying prone on a couch, we find the remains of a long-dead alien. Its logbook tells the story of an ambitious entrepreneur who hoped to make a fortune here, but whose homeworld was swept away by cataclysm. Without supplies from their native planet, they died of hunger, leaving the mine operating for centuries. We reprogrammed the drones to mine for us. What's more, we find a supply of Omega in the command center. It must have been used to power the machinery. Okay, so as long as we don't take too much damage on our way back, we can sort of afford to explore. Now, again, that's a big if. Yeah, so I'm going to want to be pretty careful with Sergei's health, lest we run into the problem we had last time. Steel beams form gossamer structure adorned with clinging vegetation that blows in the wind. It's not a terrestrial structure, but rather a ship that crashed here possibly eons ago. So let's explore the surrounding area. Alright, not as exciting, but I'd rather not have people lose health for... Okay, there's more stuff to loot, so first things first, let's get some healing in. Sacre bleu! Alright, but it doesn't look like it's doing extra damage over time, so we'll be fine. Do you want to board the ship and end the expedition? Yes! So clearly more damage than we wanted to run into, but with luck we'll get some hafnium out of the minerals. So the carbon's not really going to mean that much for us. There's the hafnium, though. Although I seem to recall we needed 10. We'll see if we can get a ruling. Actually, before I do that, let's take a quick look at our blueprints. So, gravitational lens, a telescope attachment that multiplies the device's range by analyzing deformations caused by celestial bodies and detecting any invisible intermediate masses. Increases the range of the telescope by 6 light years. Ultraprobe, a technology that allows the ship to probe into the surface of stars and recover resources. Solar sails, technology that reduces the fuel consumption of interplanetary travel by harnessing the photonic pressure of starlight. These golden panels fold and unfold fractally. Gravitational sails, a technology that reduces fuel consumption by allowing a ship to detect and harness the gravitational fields produced by celestial bodies. Thermal resonance generator improves the shield generator by using the structure's resonant frequency to control the molecular velocity. Void fluctuation projector, a technology that protects against external assaults by using the particles generated by the void fluctuations to create virtual shields. Superconductor, an improved shield that turns the ship's structure into a superconductor. The hull is protected by a magnetic field that continuously reconfigures itself. Gravitational well generator, a technology that increases the power of the cosmic folder via the addition of a photonic pressure propulsion system. +5 performance increases the range of the cosmic folder by 2 light years. Tau stasis, technology that manipulates the pockets of space created by the cosmic folder, effectively altering the flow of time around the ship and boosting the power of the cosmic folder. Subspace reactor, photonic pressure propulsion system that expands the number of temporal pockets created around the ship, therefore greatly increasing the power of the cosmic folder. So performance and 6 light years. Finally, planetary extension, a drill attachment that while drilling extends probes sideways over a large area, significantly increasing the amount of materials gathered. Immortal Velity says, use all the resources to invade the Council's chambers and free Titan from tyranny and replace it with our own. It's not tyranny. You work your way up. You start as a worker, and if you work hard and continue working, you could still be a worker, but you'll be a worker for a much more profitable company. And in the end, isn't that the true meaning of Christmas? Okay, let's see. I don't have a way of checking the logbook. I'm pretty sure we need 10 hafnium, so I am gonna drill. No, apparently it has to be... Okay. I'm gonna visit the Blue Giant first just so I can get the hydrogen on the way. Our ship emerges from folded space near a singularity, a miniature black hole that presses us against the walls of the ship and probably transports us years into the future with each passing second. We have to escape or else we'll be trapped here until the end of time. We can push the reactors or use the black hole's orbit to escape. It's a maneuver that saves us a lot of fuel, but also takes us nearer the black hole. The walls of the ship tremble and groan under the gravitational pull as we race past the destructive body and then slingshot back out. Ship has suffered 20 damage, although I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so we need to get some fuel. I may also need to take a small break so that I can refill some tea and just generally shake the wool out of my head. Okay, getting a little worried about oxygen, but I think we can sort ourselves out. I'm thinking about games for next week. I do enjoy Out There, but I'm wondering if people would feel too hard done by if... Oh, I screwed up. I wanted to store the helium.
Equipment damaged.
That's a shame. Oh well. Was curious if people would feel too hard done by if I did Quake again next Friday. I don't think it would hurt to go to the neutron star, because if I recall correctly, neutron stars have garden worlds, which will help me with the oxygen. We find something very strange floating in space, a large metallic structure that contains millions of dimensional gates leading somewhere. Who built this? The amount of resources required defies imagination. We can, of course, enter one of the gates, but where do they go? I would love to go exploring, but we kind of need to return the hafnium, so we're going to leave the area. It's too risky. We have a mission, and we must not deviate from it. As we reposition ourselves to get back on course, we are surprised to find an abandoned ship. Ship has been detected in the system. Okay. Well, I don't need to go to the... I don't need the oxygen right away, so let's visit the abandoned ship and see what we can collect. Cool. Yeah, not much else we can do right now. I could try building some more stuff, but again, I'm pretty sure there's something that's going to take this slot up. So we'll just visit the garden planet, grab some oxygen, and go on our merry way. Okay, blueprints and Omega, alien word and Omega. So normally I'd like to go for the blueprints, but in this case I actually kind of want to see the alien word. So we'll land, and I don't know what our health is going to look like for this expedition, so I may need to be a little more gentle with my crew members. Yeah, so Nyx is not at full health. I'm going to assume Sergei's pretty rough. Yeah, 4 of 8. Definitely want a xenolinguist, and somebody who can heal. Excuse me. So we've already got what we want from this world, which is the oxygen. But in this case here, I have an opportunity to get an alien word as well as some experience for my people. So, as usual, we will avoid anything that damages us. But otherwise, this is a chance for us to try and improve our station. Okay, so I'd like to know a little bit more about what's behind here. It looks like, I don't know if that's the... Well, I guess it would say if that was the objective. Okay, so in order to get the minerals, we're gonna have to go to a danger zone. Planet Us. Camerson's Us. Us fear give Gronosarai planet Us. Us Irinkova Ratkit planet Roar. Our response sends gentle ripples of mirth through the alien's body. It waves to the shopkeepers near us, then signals us to watch the stalls. Which of the stalls is its own? Okay, so I don't know if we have space for recruitment. Yeah, we're already at max. So, and if we kick someone out, we lose morale. So, I don't quite see the value in that. But I'm pretty sure we already have one of these things. Yeah, there aren't quite the trading opportunities that I would normally have wanted here, so I think I'm just gonna... I think I'll just keep it to myself. Screw your crew members, I bet they don't even pay taxes to the God Emperor captain of the ship. Definitely not the God Emperor captain of the ship. I believe there is a godlike creature that was our prisoner that's currently running things. So they're not paying taxes is actually a pretty cool thing. So I haven't been doing quite as much explore. Like, I've obviously been crashing into cities or villages a little bit faster than I normally do. I've never seen Chronicles of Riddick, but I'm pretty sure that was shot in Vancouver. Okay, cool. I'm not going to go in there quite yet. I'd still like to get a little bit of a read on what's available in the area, but if it turns out that the only hazard we need to cross is for the minerals, I'll feel pretty good. Okay, so... we definitely have a way of getting to those plants without taking damage. Yeah, so it's just those minerals that we may need to take damage for. Everything else, we're in good shape. Our expedition comes across a settlement that is less a village and more a termite mound, within a city that is vast yet composed of minuscule buildings sculpted from mud, live beings of just a few millimeters height. Their lives last only 20 seconds, during which time they work, reproduce, and die. 20 seconds? It's a record for me. To them, we are immobile giants in the sky above them. After a terrible multi-generational fright, they are now constructing taller and taller buildings in order to observe us. Establish contact. Our xenolinguist has an idea. They create a complex visual language that summarizes our history and presence here, all using a single glyph. In a matter of minutes, millions of the tiny beings have spent their lives studying why we are here. To aid us in our journey, they give us their most precious possessions, and we take a small group of volunteers with us to swarm the stars. We have learned dream. So I'm pretty sure the game already registers these words for me, but I like writing them down for myself, so... T-R-A... Sorry, T-R-K... And we got some Omega for our trouble. Okay, so I'm going to grab the plants first, because those don't involve me taking any damage. And then we'll try our luck with the minerals. They're not really something that I need. And Sergey is in a bit of trouble, so it may not be the smartest choice for me to make, but... I have a history of making bad decisions in this game. Wait a minute, wasn't there another village? Yeah, I didn't visit the abandoned village. We find structures of rotting adobe invaded by a kind of vine that grows thickly across all entrances. People lived here once, and echoes of past dramas can be heard even now, but no one living remains. We could climb the main tower and find a point of interest, fix the irrigation system for hit points, or leave the village. Now, I would be interested in knowing what point of interest gets me, but health is kind of... I'm gonna go for the health. Pakistan. That was not... I was kind of hoping it would be Nyx that's got healed. Okay, so I usually go for the skill first, and then it doesn't really need more hit points, so let's go for 4 health for 1 expedition member, or I spread the love across I think I'll take care of multiple characters. Okay, now we don't have that much. We don't have a lot of space, so in this case, we're gonna burn the minerals and the plants right away. Plants, I suspect, we're probably just gonna wind up throwing out, but we'll see where the rules take us. Okay, I've already got I've got 20 for the hull already, so that's a nice little surplus. And okay, +5 morale for every 6 trips used on a ship with resistance 60 or more. Now, fortunately, I wrote down the stats last time, so our resistance is 50. Normally, I would just burn this for oxygen, but we're already at full oxygen, so in this case, we'll just leave the flower where we found it. Okay, no real reason to drill, so we'll take off, and we'll now go back to Ark. So it's a different path than what we took last time, but not... I feel we at least followed the spirit of what we had intended to do. And we will land. You came back? Oh, Captain, I wasn't sure. Here's the hafnium you requested. How many survivors are left? There aren't many of us, but now we'll be able to rebuild the colony little by little. Nothing will ever be as it was before. Officer Sergei, my mother always said you can't move forward by looking back. Your efforts have given our people back their hope. We scoured the four corners of the galaxy for hafnium, all for the merest sliver of hope? When I joined the service, it was so I could help my people. Instead, I've doomed them. Pull yourself together, officer. As captain of this vessel, the responsibility for what happened falls to me. It's a weird expression to have for this dialogue. We failed, yes. Are we going to wallow in self-pity, or try to make amends? You're right, Captain. Excuse my moment of weakness. I swear from now on, my sole focus will be stopping the Archon. Officer Sergei, about before, I just lost my mother and, well, I was too harsh. I can assure you that we haven't given up. The entire colony is thankful for your efforts. There, you see? You saved your people, Sergei. And don't forget that you have another family too. This crew. Don't forget that. If you're looking for a way to defeat the Archon, I may have an idea. The risks are enormous, though. If ever there was a time for risks, Lieutenant, it's now. Tell us. Not many people know this, but there exists a being that is capable of destroying entire stars. The entity that extinguished Earth's sun, the mythical Earth. I think the key lies in finding this mythical Earth. There could be some clue there about how to approach this entity. Mythical Earth. Plenty of explorers have tried to find it, and failed. But some had leads. One of them was my father. He left me these coordinates. I can't promise anything, but I hope they will be useful to you. This could be useful to you as well. It's an old module, of no use now that the God cubes are gone. If you'll excuse me, I must go make use of the precious resources you have brought us. Of course. Thank you, Lieutenant. Sergei, I need you, but if you'd rather stay... There's nothing left for me here, Captain. Let's go. So, the Divinity module makes the transportation of divine beings possible aboard ships, constructed with technology that absorbs substantial amounts of excess energy and reduces an object's physical mass. Okay. I am going to take what I hope will be a short break, but I actually have a couple things to do now, so I need to refill my tea. I did just get a message which I don't want to spend too much time on, but I do need to address. And then I also, I don't know, I think maybe it's because I've had to reset some stuff, but I'm just feeling like a little out of it. So I'm going to just try and I need to make the tea anyway, but I'm just going to try and move around and try and wake up a little bit, especially because, as I'm sure you're all getting tired of hearing, I have my writing to do. And I'm going to have a half hour after the stream to, to try and keep awake and alert enough for that. So I think for me, I can definitely benefit from a little bit of a break. I hope you can benefit from a break as well. And I know this is not everybody's cup of tea, but I am going to run ads for a little while. If nothing else, that will give people a chance to avoid the pre-roll ads. So if those don't do it for you, and for whatever reason you're not equipping an ad blocker, now is a great time to get up from the keys. I'm going to try and keep it a few minutes long, but again, I'm just refilling everything, and I'll probably let the kettle boil and pour my new cup of tea rather than do it in two parts like I normally do. So I'll try and keep it quick, but it might be a slightly longer break than I normally do. But I hope to see you when I'm back, and please enjoy a quick rest for yourself. See you then. Okay, my apologies for leaving you all high and dry for a bit, but I should be good to go for the rest of the evening. I've got my tea steeping. I'm still a little fuzzy, but not as bad as I was before, and we've almost recovered the progress that we lost. So we are going to be going to Mythical Earth. This is kind of where we were headed at the start of the broadcast. Thank you to Cree. I hope you all had a somewhat restful break, whatever you wound up doing. But yeah, so for those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with Out There, Oceans of Time. Now, I'll first of all, I'll admit I've not played the game that came before. However, some of you may recall that on Fridays I was playing a game that I was very fascinated by. It was Starflight, and I definitely feel like there are more than a few connections to Starflight, intentionally or not. One thing I do notice with Starflight is that one of the people who worked on it, at least one of the people who worked on it, also worked on a game called Star Control, and Star Control seems to come up a lot. Now, I've not played it, so I can't really comment, but it may be that what it kind of comes down to is when people are, like when they're, I'm really curious about this green ring. Like what it comes down to, like basically it's sometimes hard to figure out what the influences for certain things are. So there's definitely overlap between Star Control and Starflight, and it's probably one of these things where you would actually need the developer to say, this was the thing that inspired me. Another example that I might give of this would be, I really like the game Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. And in fact, one of the things that's such a shame is it feels like that game was... I feel like that game had more plans for sort of expansions and such, but it seems that its community got really aggressive with the developers, and at least one of them has left games altogether. He's now narrating audiobooks and writing, which, first of all, really good for him. But what a shame, right? Because I really enjoyed Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. And one of the reason why I bring this up is that I've never played, I think it's called, is it Free Space? Because there's like one which was like a sequel to Descent, and then there was another one which was, I think Freelancer. Anyways, one was a sequel to Descent, and that's not the one I'm thinking of. The one I'm thinking of was originally, I think Chris Roberts had originally worked on it, and then it was completed by another designer. But the point I was kind of trying to make about that particular game was to talk about Wing Commander, because Wing Commander I at least knew about, and I also knew the origins of it, where apparently, Chris Roberts was, as a kid saw the first Star Wars movie, which I don't care what they call it, is not A New Hope, it's Star Wars. That was the name of the movie. The fact they wanted to retitle it afterwards, don't care. The movie that inspired him was Star Wars, because that's what it was called. But anyways, the reason why I point this out is there's a lot of emphasis that seems to have been put on Jedi. And why not? Jedi are cool. Jedi are really interesting, and they're something that I can see make for a really good fantasy. Definitely make for a really, a really cool character to play, particularly in modern games. But I think one of the things that really captured people's imagination when that movie first came out was the starship fighting, right? And that certainly was something that inspired Chris Roberts and translated into, Wing Commander among many other games. And I can definitely get where people are talking, they want to really highlight this one, Microsoft published game. And I can't begrudge them that, but it's it doesn't invalidate, the early origins of, kind of this very groundbreaking game series that wound up having a pretty heavy influence in terms of, in terms of subsequent development. But I don't know, like, again, I think people just really, really want you to know that they're smart, right? So at a certain point, you just look at those comments and move on, right? Or you complain about them incessantly in stream. But in any case, the challenge is that, like, is it fair to say that it's not an influence on Rebel Galaxy Outlaw? No, but I mean, I haven't played the game, so I can't talk about which specific elements are those influences, and what's just inherited from some of the earlier efforts. Likewise, I haven't played Star Control. I understand that there's a lot of overlap, and that generally when I talk about Starflight, people seem to bring up Star Control. The one case that I would make is that, at least in the case of Mass Effect, I can clearly make the case that it was Starflight that inspired Mass Effect, not Star Control. And I mean, in the end, the point is to just try and talk about, things that interest me, but also maybe where they're sort of either participating in sort of a longer tradition in terms of games, or they've inherited certain ideas. Sometimes they're not necessarily ideas that work. Sometimes it can actually be an indication in terms of where some of the flaws of the game come from. This is one of the things that makes Old World so interesting, is its willingness to break from the tradition of 4Xs. And in fact, this is the other game that is a tricky one for me, because I've never played the Master of Orion games, except for one of the more modern remakes of them. But after I took a look at, I think it was Master of Orion 2, I saw somebody playing it, I began to appreciate just how much from that game, sort of space 4X style games, have sort of taken ideas and inspiration. Master of Orion 2 is your favorite 4X game ever. So, like, I feel like having seen a bit of it, and again, I definitely could not speak with authority, but having seen somebody play a little bit of it, I get the impression that you can see its fingerprints on, like, Endless Space, Stellaris. There was another one I was thinking of when I was talking, but it escapes me. Wasn't Distant Worlds Universe, was it? I don't know. It's not that big of a deal for you play it for the first time in like 2000. I don't even know when it first came out. Like, I think I have a copy of it, and it probably would be on GOG. But the thing is that, like, I bought a bunch of classic games which seemed to be things that either developers I really liked talked about being big influences, or ones that people had recommended to me. And the problem is that I bought a bunch of them, but I never wound up playing them. 1996. Okay. So, like, a great example of this would be Master of Magic, which apparently is another really influential game, but it's not necessarily one that I've played. And in fact, even Starflight, like, the version of Starflight I'm playing is different from what I first saw. And it's actually a little hard to get into compared to what I first saw, but I'm enjoying it, so... Master of Magic, yeah. Well, it got a sort of an update, and I believe they're making a modernized version of it now. But we'll see. Anyway, sorry, I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but one of the things that I did want to talk a little bit about how this game works and what I like about it. So there is a little bit that. Let me get the name of the developer for it, because I'm like 99% sure it's still going on. Oh, it's supposed to be out this year. Published by Slytherin. I mean, they own the old one too. Yuha Games and Eerie Forest Studio. Latest update was July 29th, 12th Dev Diary. And I'm just trying to look for the discussions before we go back to this, but first thing I see in the Steam discussions is all capital letters. Released this game already. You cannot release it, at least give everyone a better guess, than sometime in 2022, and this is why developers do not interact with their audiences. Oh, interesting. So from July 25th, well, to be fair, the estimate is sometime in autumn of 2022, not just sometime in 2022, and we are still aiming to release in that window. Cool. So not only do you have an opportunity to pick it up, but it actually looks like it will become available. They're at least trying to make it available sooner than you're expecting. Battlestar Galactica Deadlock is good, so I'm willing to give it a shot. Yeah, so you can probably find it on Steam and wishlist it. But yeah, it looks like they're still going for autumn 22. Okay, so I was talking about this game though. So basically, in this game, jumping from system to system, it's very heavy on resource management. So you've got fuel, oxygen, hull, and morale, which you need to keep together, and you can manage. Right, this was the hafnium. I can definitely keep spares. So I've got my iron for my hull, I've got my helium for fuel. But as you can see, the more storage I have, the less space I have for all the different improvements I can make to my ship. So there's a fun little balancing act that you do in terms of keeping things in reserve and being able to repair your various items and such, while still making sure that you're able to carry the resources that you need. Yeah, the two games I've never played. Was it the same developers who did Masters of Magic and Masters of Orion? Or is it just... What about Masters of Terras Cassie? I know about that one because of Valiant Cheese's blog on Star Wars games. But yeah, so in this case here, there's a fun little trade-off between trying to improve your ship and trying to make sure that you have enough resources to get you to your destination. So in this case, I've not messed around too much with what I have in my, basically my default setup for the ship is not changed that much. What I'd eventually like to do is start to draw down some of these resources and put some more improvements onto the ship. And I think probably the way I'll go about that is I'll maybe work out some priorities in terms of the different things I need to build, what I would need to have in order to be able to repair the various items. And there'll be a bit of a trade-off in terms of just how much I keep in storage, how much I move out, but I'm not quite ready to do that. I think we're going to do a little bit more exploration. Same designer and devs. Oh, that's really cool. Although I'm guessing Masters of Terras Cassie has absolutely nothing to do with... I actually found out Masters of Terras Cassie was, I think, a Star Wars-themed fighting game. I may not even be pronouncing it correctly, but I also found out there was a Fight Club fighting game. Which I suppose kind of makes sense, but who would have thought of a video game adaptation of Fight Club? But yeah, so you can kind of see there's a little bit of a dilemma here. So I'm sitting on a lot of carbon, silicon, copper. These are definitely useful in terms of being able to build things that will improve my ship. But how you doing, Noxkheim? But the problem that I have here is that these are, I've had 20 carbon for a while. I think I've had 20 silicon for a while as well. And so this is just sitting here taking up space, where there are a number of blueprints that I could be building to just sort of overall help me get through the various sort of scenarios that I'm running into. So at some point I probably need to work out exactly what my priorities are going to be and what I really need to keep on the ship. But like I said, for now I'm going to just focus on moving forward and seeing if I can get by with my existing resources. But one of the ways that I'm going to make my way to Earth, again, you've got your mission log here. We're kind of picking whatever encounters we choose to follow. I'm going to be hopping between systems, and I'm always going to be making sure that I've got my fuel, oxygen, and hull managed. Usually I will make a decision in terms of what system I go to based on the resources that I need. And then, of course, the other consideration is, does it get me closer to my target, which in this case is Mythical Earth. So for instance, here, the neutron star from previous experience I know is going to give me garden planets, which are fine. Like, I'm not going to cry about winding up near garden planets, but I don't really need the oxygen right now. So we'll maybe take a quick look, see what we can find. But this is more about just moving forward and getting myself some better options for the jumps. So let's start with that. So, 2 planets in the system. I don't have the Ultra Probe, so this will shred my hull. But let's start by going to Becker 4021. Okay, so if I want to land on this planet for the oxygen, I can, but that's all I'm going to be able to get from it. So what I'll do instead is I'll spend a little bit of fuel. Now, I know I'm going to land on this planet no matter what, but my hope here is that we can find some anomalies which I can investigate as well. And we didn't, so in this case we'll land, we'll suffer a little bit of hull damage for it, but we will refill our oxygen. Now, I have a couple of options in terms of my next move. I could try mining this world, and that'll potentially dig up some oxygen. Actually, you know what? I think I will do that in this case. So we'll put the oxygen here. The copper and the carbon I've already got sort of a maximum amount for, so we'll drill one more time. Okay, that didn't really get me anything. So given that our fuel's starting to get a bit low, I might want to try and go to a world that's got a gas giant, which I could use to grab some fuel. There's helium and hydrogen, which will produce fuel for us. The other thing that's interesting here is that there is a white dwarf. White dwarves, I believe, normally have access to a save point. So we'll start with the blue giant, just because. And again, this is stuff that's sort of earned through experience. I've got a notebook that I keep open while I play this. But in this case here, we went to this system, one, because it's closer to Mythical Earth, but number two, it also is a chance for us to refuel. A ship is broadcasting a distress signal. They have exhausted their fuel reserves while dodging a comet and are now adrift. We should help them, but can we afford them? Let's give them some of the ship's fuel. We transfer them enough fuel to get them to the nearest planet. They have nothing to offer us in return, but we weren't expecting a reward. If we find ourselves in their position someday, we can only hope for a kind soul who will do the same for us. So fuel levels fall into 20, morale increases to 10. Now the good news is that we're going to have some number of planets. Actually, it looks like we've also got a rocky planet. So this is a little bit of a risk, but I'm going to go to the rocky planet first to just kind of repair the hull and such. And then we're going to visit the gas giants. And it turns out we've got anomalies we can check out too. Okay, so no risk mineral area or very high risk seam of resources. I think we'll go for the high risk. We should be a fully healed crew, so we'll land. Again, that costs fuel. Looks like something happened to my frame rate. So we're going to start with the expedition. I might drill. I'll drill afterwards, but right now I want to see how the expedition goes. So, and I think in this case, so I pretty much always bring Nix and Sergei. Now, it is worth remembering that if either of these characters, at least allegedly, if either of these characters die on the expedition, that's game over. We did, however, lose Sergei through a slightly different scenario. And in that particular case, it seems like either there's a bug or there's something else that causes him to kind of stay around. So yeah, so I'm not 100% sure what it takes to get to full health, but honestly 7 out of 8 is not that bad. So so I'm definitely bringing the Xenolinguist. So now we've got one of each of our skills. Now the target we're going for does require, it does at least indicate that we want, this is not engineering. However, I would kind of like to be able to level up Aleb, because Aleb does not have a lot of health. So I think in this case here, I am going to, against my better judgment, send them out. Now again, this is one of the riskier missions I can send them out on, but I do have some people who are capable of healing, so. Okay. This is going to be one of these cases where I need to really have to, like, it has to be, there's no other way to get to an important area before I start triggering damage, because this is a pretty fragile guy that I've brought. Okay, I'm going to avoid the crash chip for now just because, again, we may need to take damage to complete certain tasks. And I have the ability to heal, but I want to make sure that I'm using... I want to make sure I complete the objective first, then exploration, and then you know, make sure that people survive. So like, this is a decent example here where if there's no obstacles, then it's just a question of waiting. And we were talking about this before, so I hadn't read this post. I actually really should. I guess the thing is that Steam forums are so dreadful to read most of the time. But it does turn out from the last time we played this, I was talking a little bit about why I think you are allowed to just sort of wander around, because it does seem to be from the comments that there was some mechanism to sort of make you have to do the exploration a bit faster. And the point that I made on a previous broadcast was that it sort of seems counter to the intention of a game where you're doing, you know, all of this exploration, and, you know, you're enjoying the fantasy of going out in space and seeing strange new worlds and, you know, having all these encounters, to then introduce a mechanic that will sort of penalize you for taking your time to explore and experience a world. It kind of seems to be counter to the intent. Now again, you can see the way that I'm handling this, which is to sort of walk around and not run into any sorts of difficulty, and I'm not entirely sure that's consistent with the intention for the game either. But at least in this case, right, I'm doing something that's a little more consistent with what you might expect when you're playing a game. How you doing, Vanguard Master? Finished work, so you're done lurking for the night. You'll be a bit more chatty. Hello, hello, and everybody's green tonight. See, I always wondered if that was just random assignment or people selecting. I've always thought that if you haven't selected your color, Twitch just randomly assigns you one. But maybe everybody just really likes the green names. But yeah, so like you can kind of see the way that I've been handling this, right? As I've been sort of dodging around the edge of the hazards, taking my sweet time. That may not necessarily be in line with what the designers had in mind either. But I would argue on the balance of things that it's probably better for me to take the time and explore and do so on my own terms, rather than say, oh God, you know, my stamina numbers, you know, going a certain way. Okay, well, we're just going to run to the objective and then run back, and I'm not going to engage with anything else on the planet. Again, I would assume that if you're doing the Space Captain fantasy, it's probably better to let people spend some time on the planet. But like I said, it does seem from the forum post that they're not entirely happy with the way that it's working right now. I think they made the right call to remove. They called it stamina, but whatever it was that kind of gave you a limit in terms of the time that you'd be spending on a planet. But I can also understand the other half of the equation, which says you don't want to make the game trivial, right? At the very least, you want to add sort of maybe a set of difficulty levels, because it feels like nowadays there's usually an option in a game which says, I just want to experience the story. I don't actually want to, I don't want to run into difficult challenges. Randomly assigns you one, but yours was blue before and hard to read, so you changed it to green manually. But now you see if you can change it again. Well, please don't feel the need to do so on my part. I think the way I can usually tell is if the same name, like over multiple streams, is the same color. Usually, I assume someone said it, but. Anyways, let's go to the Dragon's Treasure and hope we don't die going through the Sacre Bleu. The Dragon's Treasure. Our expedition arrives at the entrance to a vast cavern. Immediately we know that we've stumbled across something truly valuable. Within we find a staggering amount of metals and ores. However, this treasure is being guarded. Lying in wait near the center of the cavern is a gigantic worm, much like a legless lizard. It is massive, easily as large as our ship. Attacking this monster head-on is unthinkable. Pink is the best color. I agree. I mean, I may have a different color for my own profile, but that's just to allow, the pinkness of others to be highlighted. One needs contrast. Okay, so we could surreptitiously steal some minerals, we could draw the creature outside, or we can frighten the creature. So another bit of resource management inside of this game will be the various skills that you bring on your planetary expeditions. So I have 4 crew members. I believe you need to bring at least one. Well, obviously you need to bring... I believe you can bring anywhere from 1 to 4 is what I was meaning to say. But if you bring at least 3, you're going to have the full range of abilities available to you. And so you'll have your characters will essentially have 3 types of specialization. You have survivalists, which would be Nyx. You have engineers, which would be Sergei. And then you have xenolinguists, which I do not recall the name of this character here. The game did give me an indicator, so I think this is just me giving me a preview of one of the skills that I'll need to complete it. I don't think you're required to do it this way. But in this case here, so I could surreptitiously steal some minerals. Now this will probably have a consequence. We could draw the creature outside, so that's good. That's basically, Nyx being the badass that they are, and letting my people grab resources. Or we could let the engineer frighten the creature. And you'll notice that there's a certain cost in terms of the number of pips. So you can use these both for the events, but there's also healing abilities and such that people have. And so as a result, you have this trade-off between whether or not you want to use your skills to complete the events that you find on the planet, whether it's Dragon's Treasure or a village or some other, scenario that you run into. Or alternatively, you can use them for your various skills that you have on the planet. And in fact, you do get more experience if you use your skills, which I think is... I can't really think of a lot of games which have explicitly done it this way, but the idea is that you're given a reason to keep using your abilities or just otherwise sort of take up your actions because you're able to level up your character. This is kind of like how The Elder Scrolls has done levels up in the past. So the more you use a skill, the more it goes up, and it costs less to advance it. Or sometimes that's whether or not it can be advanced at all. I know they've done a few different systems like that. So overall, I actually think it's not a bad way of doing it, because again, if you think of it, right, the more you use a particular skill, the better you get at it. It would make sense that that should be easier, and your character will develop along the lines of how you have of how you've been playing them. And in this game, maybe it's not exactly the same, but it is a case where it'll say it's like, okay, you clearly put a lot of yourself out there. Your skills were tested, and you you came through. And so that expedition, in this game, basically, that expedition will have a larger reward for you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, I like it as a system. But with that in mind, what I'm going to try and do here, even though frightening the creature costs more in terms of points, I actually want to do that because my hope here is that Sergei will have their points exhausted, and as a result, we'll get some more XP by the end. So, frighten the creature. Our engineer takes the time to study the creature. After some musing on its physiology, they construct a machine that they believe will cause a strong reaction in the beast. The machine sends a series of pulses into the ground. What is the nature of this machine that's trying to provoke a reaction from a large worm-like thing through vibrations? Creating vibrations that the creature cannot bear. I think I've seen this device. It writhes and thrashes, then begins burrowing down to the center of the cavern. The beast does not reappear, even when we walk in and begin gathering up minerals. The expedition has been a total success. Sergei's lost 2 action points, the crew's found 20 minerals, and amethyst. This is a trade item, but not a... It doesn't have a direct benefit to me as far as, like, giving me a particular ability is concerned, but it does help me trade. Okay, so Nyx is going to lose quite a bit of health. I'm not that worried about it, though, because Nyx has quite a bit of health, and again, I still have the ability to heal my people, so... Out of curiosity, is the game stuttering for people, or am I just imagining that? It's nice and silky smooth for me, but... Just beyond a jungle escarpment, we spy the ruins of an unbelievably old structure. It could be the resting place for something very interesting. However, the entrance is being watched by a pair of enormous panther-like creatures. They scan their surroundings with an eerie confidence, making us think twice about our approach. So the xenolinguist could observe the animal's behavior, or we can find a way to enter. In that case, we can use up Sergei's points, so... Our engineer attempts to scan the building, looking for anything that would justify a riskier approach. They note that the predators are not giving off any kind of energy signatures, and realizes that they're not even alive. It seems that they were replicas designed to fool the uninitiated. We congratulate the engineer for their astute observation, and continue our exploration of the structure. So we got an ancient compass for that. Again, that's a... that's a trade item. I just know that from the icon as one we've run into before. So Nyx is looking a little worse for wear, but I don't think we need to take damage to visit the crashed ship. We come across a titanic metal structure that, at one point, must have opened like a flower and began the process of vomiting smaller, intricate metal structures, only to freeze mid-process. It appears to be an alien terraforming ship that lost a battle with the planet's natural ecosystem. Okay, so we could search for personal effects, which will damage morale, but will gain an object. We could analyze the ship's structure, which will gain us morale. Now, the thing is that my morale's already pretty good, and I've got a few mechanisms that will allow me to improve morale. So in this case, I think I'll take the object, even if it means that we see something horrifying. Crew's morale decreases by 5, and the crew found 1 lithological map. It doesn't say what we saw. I feel a little cheated. Alright. So we've already completed the expedition. I really don't think... Yeah, not quite enough. but I can grab a bunch of plants. I mean, I could also damage my crew members, but that's probably not a good idea. All right, do you want to board the ship and end the expedition? Yes. Oh! I think there is something I could have unpacked. Oh, well. Okay, level 2 for Nyx. Looks like we're still going to be waiting a while for Aleb to move up, but a fairly decent haul. So T-set, Ancient Compass, Actually, Ancient Compass may not be a trade item. I thought it was this icon, but this looks different. Okay. Now, when you level up, you get 2 points. I think this is true for everything. Now, I do normally like taking extra skill points just because it means you can do more. Now, I have a little bit of a dilemma as far as Nyx is concerned, because in one sense, if I lose Nyx, that's basically game over. And so spending the extra points on healing is a decent idea. But obviously doing that will mean that I have to sacrifice other abilities that I have. So we'll take a minute here and just double check that I'm willing to sort of give this up. So Cataplasm heals 3 health points for 1 expedition member. That would move it up to 4. Alternatively, there's Tundra Herbal Tea, which in this case... I can't see why I would want to do this because I'm going to lose it after a certain time anyway, aren't I? Nope. Okay, I get it now. It lowers the cost, so it costs us 4 plants to use right now, and it would decrease to 2. So not bad. I don't use this very often. I'd probably use Cataplasm more than others. So the question is the extra 1 health worth it? I mean, it's 1 extra health I can deploy to just about any member of the party. On the other hand, I can bring Nyx up to 10 points. I don't use Nyx for healing that much, so in this case I'll invest in the character, but in future I may want to revise that choice. Okay, so we don't really have space for any of this stuff, so we are gonna throw them into the refineries. Now I could do automatic, but I don't know, it's fun to watch the animations. Also gives me a chance to sort of sip some tea while it's still warm. Ooh, I was not expecting to get Omega. So I mean, all told, that was a pretty decent haul. Carbon, no, we can still use thorium. The carbon, the copper, those I don't need. I'm going to be leaving those behind because your max stack is 20. Omega is definitely helpful. In fact, I found out that with Omega you can actually resurrect a crew member, which is cool. Excuse me. And then the reason, even though I'm at 20 stack on iron, you can use iron to repair the hull. So I'll just use the iron for repairs, and then whatever's left over. Yes, my apologies to all of you. I am going to move it off of that number. Well, let's see how much we can repair. Yeah, it's not the full amount. Okay, so silicon, carbon, and copper. And again, this is just because I haven't found better uses for these. Now, the one that's going to be a little more frustrating, for lack of a better term, are the plants, because really I don't have that much I can do with them. Ah, well, we didn't get any anyway, so looks like we're actually starting to run out, so it may be a good idea to stop by a garden planet at some point, but for now we'll just let this work its way through. Now, this is a rocky planet. It's kind of hard for me to say that I really need to be drilling right now. On the other hand, I can get the hull even higher. So I gotta be careful because I still need to make sure I have enough fuel to get me to the gas giants. But let's hit it with a 5. Okay, cool. So, small improvement. And then we'll take off. And we should still have enough to... Yeah, just enough. Have enough to make it to the gas giant. And in that case, we're going to fuel up. So probe. My usual routine has been to, I think, 8 and 4. Oh, not enough fuel. Right. You know what? We can fix that, though. They're going to want me to throw all of it in, though. Well, I mean, that's life. So I'm going to rebuild my helium reserves. Now there's diminishing returns, so I've kind of worked out a pattern where I'll spend about 12 fuel, and generally that leaves me ahead. So for instance, we spend 8 here, so I got 20. Hydrogen will get me 2 fuel per hydrogen, so that's worth 40 on its own. And then the helium is worth 10, so that's 60 in total. It actually turns out we've got a little too much. I could throw the oxygen in here and make more space for hydrogen, but I think it's probably better for me to just leave it. Okay. But this trip served its main purpose, which was to refuel, and as it turns out, we were able to get a little extra for the rocky world as well. So normally I would want to travel as far as I can, but in this case, the nice thing about the White Dwarf, if I recall correctly, is that these systems will give you they'll give you a save point. And then they basically have one of each type of world. So there'll be a gas giant, a rocky planet, a garden world, and then a save point. So what I might do is I might visit the rocky world to... Actually, no, I'll probably visit the gas giant. Well, no, I shouldn't visit the gas. Yeah, I should probably visit the rocky world for the hull, the garden world for the oxygen, refuel at the gas giant, and then save... and then we can properly make our way to Earth. The one thing I want to do, though, is definitely save, because clearly we lost a bit of progress to start off with. Oh, Captain, can I ask you a question? You can always ask. I can't promise to answer. Do you have any memories of America? Not really. I mostly remember my military training back in school. I still recall the stories I was told as a child about when all the humans lived together on a single planet. Say its name, the mythical Earth. I believe it exists, Sergei. America is bound together by its faith in the Church, and the Church speaks of a god who walked the mythical Earth. This religion is the god of the cross. Is it the god of the cross you wear around your neck? I know you're not a believer, Sergei. We have our own personal quests. Faith is one of mine. I never found a single trace of my god on any of the thousands of worlds I have visited. Does this mean my god does not exist? I'm sorry, Captain, but for me, faith takes us away from the only thing that matters, the truth, though it is often unpleasant. Okay, like I said, rocky planet first. I might do rocky gas giant, then garden, now that I think of it. Oh, and a civilized planet. Well, let's start with a civilized planet then. And we'll start by exploring the city, although of course we've now learned that you can get damaged through it. We arrive on a planet where it is made abundantly clear that humanoids are not welcome. The inhabitants resemble insects, and their homes are made of salvaged supplies. What's more, every single door throughout the entire city displays a sign reading, "Humans not allowed." Our science officer attempts to approach, but is attacked from a distance. Rocks are slingshotted at them, hampering their return to the ship and giving them many small, painful bruises. Avoid further stoning. Okay, let's see if we can recruit. So there are a couple of decent characters. There'd be the temptation to replace Aleb with Al Erp here, just because higher level, better skill, better health. The drawback is if you kick out somebody on the team, there is a morale penalty for it. Yeah, I'll resist the urge to sort of min-max everything. Let's see if we can trade. Life Seed, an extraordinary technology that harnesses the strange energies of Omega to transform rocky planets into garden planets. Let's see if we can get this. So those are all my trade goods. Lithological map. Each time minerals are collected, crew gains 3 experience points. Ancient compass. Crew has a 10%. Okay, let's give up the compass. All right. Actually, you know what? Plants make a little more sense. Okay, so moving on, let's go to the rocky planet. How's my crew doing? Yeah, they're okay. So if I wasn't clear, sorry, I don't think I talked about this today. Actually, sorry, there's another thing that I should have mentioned earlier. I apologize. I was given a copy of this game for promotional purposes by Miklos. I think I started saying that at the start of the broadcast, and then I got onto another topic. So I know I haven't been as huge on go out and buy it right away endorsements. But it is one of those things I try to get out of the way right at the start, and I apologize for not doing that a little bit sooner. So with that in mind, I'm happy to talk about the game and why I like it and the things that I find interesting about it. But I think it's probably been bugging me in the back of my head for not bringing that up earlier. I was given a copy of this game for promotional purposes, so if that affects, if you were thinking of getting it and then you figure out, oh no, this guy's playing the game because he was given it, yes, sadly I have bamboozled you, and hopefully you did not play 48 hours of the game within the past 2, preventing you from being able to get a refund. Or, no, sorry, you get 2 hours of the game, and then... Yeah, never mind. Okay. I'm like right in the edge of... Let me know if you bought the game at the very start of the stream before I was actually playing it. We can talk. But yeah, no, you should... So my apologies. I try to keep on top of that. It does genuine slip. On the other hand, there's definitely a lot more people here now, so more people are probably going to hear that. Okay, so in any case, you cannot just keep flogging your crew for adventures. There's a cooldown. Now, I suppose there's probably a point where I would have enough space on the ship to be able to have sort of 2 full crews to go out on different expeditions. We're clearly not there yet, and I really don't want to send a single traveler to certain death. So we will land so that we... Well, actually, hang on. It may be that there's something we can investigate. I don't think there is, but better that we determine that for sure. Okay, yeah, so the alpha anomaly we're not going to check out. Beta anomaly, apparently... Okay, so this I actually think we might be able to do something with. Okay, so they do want me to use members of the crew, but Pegastan, again, if it is as simple as the indicator says, this should just be some free XP. And if it's not, we can always run screaming back to the ship. I should probably do this more often, actually, when my crew's on cooldown, just see if there's simple tasks I can send them to do. I'll confess, I'm a little curious in terms of what the new version of Exploration is going to be like. I certainly don't want them to rush. It sounds like they've got a pretty clear idea in terms of what they'd like to do for this game for sort of the post-release support. But given that at least my understanding of what the purpose of this was, I sort of feel kind of invested in seeing what the new version looks like, just so I can kind of make the contrast. Okay, so I think I'm just going to take a second here to make sure there's nothing else for us. And looks like we're not going to be able to do that much with this. Oh, no, we can analyze. So our expedition arrives at the site of a shipwreck, only to discover it is not a wreck at all. We are greeted by the sight of a small spacecraft with a well-lit interior. Its bay doors are wide open. The entire tableau is so beautiful as to arouse our suspicions, especially here in the middle of nowhere. So this is one of the dangers about bringing only one crew member, because remember that there are 3 different skills. There's survival, which is the yellow icon, engineering, which is the red icon, and xenolinguistics, which is the kind of greenish-blue icon. So if, for instance, this challenge was survival and xenolinguistics, then effectively my only option is explore the ship, and that could be something where my character winds up damaged. Now, the nice thing about Pegastan is that they have 9 health, so far, up to this point, we've not run into events which are, you instantly lose this character, or, take 9 damage. In fact, I actually don't think we've done anything that we haven't had the skills to work with. I'm assuming that there are ways to be damaged in this game, but probably not ways that will... Like, I'm assuming it's not like a kill a character kind of a situation. But you can imagine a different expedition in which this character would not actually be able to rise to the challenge, and at that point, you know, I'm in a particularly vulnerable spot. And then for the other character that I have, the one that's listed, I think, as a survivor, they only have 3 hit points, so it's actually quite easy to imagine them getting in a situation where they may fall as the result of not having the right combination. So this is why I generally bring a crew of 4 people. But here we will analyze the ship. Our engineer performs a scan of the area. It would seem that the ship is completely organic, not a ship at all, in other words, but some kind of camouflage generated by a predator. We use a remote holographic device to generate an illusory copy of our expedition party, which we then simulate walking towards the ship and then away. As the fake versions of ourselves retreat, we can see the ship's true form. It's a very ugly scaled creature with an enormous mouth. It runs after the illusions. After it is gone, we note that it was crouched atop a mineral deposit, which we decide to mine before leaving the area. Cool. So, the one thing I'm not clear about on these types of expeditions, so I feel like I've kind of looked everywhere on the map, right? We've got a pretty clear border around the edge. So my guess has always been for these particular areas that there is no like major objective. Oh, that's not entirely true. There might be something down here, but my feeling is for these worlds there isn't really a major objective. That this is more you get stuff from the world, and again you don't complete an objective, but you aren't in a lot of danger as well. Whereas most of the encounters seem to have a location that you're supposed to visit, and it gives you a bit of a warning in terms of what you're up against, so you can bring the appropriate party members. Do you want to board the ship and end the expedition? Yes. But yeah, as you can see, no objective up here. We gain 17 experience, morale plus 5. And we wound up with azurite, geological radar, and 34 minerals. Those 34 minerals may not necessarily turn into anything for us, but let's give them a shot anyway. So the gold's kind of welcome because it does wind up being an input into a lot of potential upgrades for the ship. Yeah, so there's a few things. I think like tungsten, gold, thorium. All right, and then we'll add the iron to the hull. We're already at 20, but we have a direct use for this. Now, we're going to be visiting a planet for fuel, so in this case, we can also afford to do drilling. Yeah, so kind of overdid it, but onto the gas giant. This will cost us some hull, but we'll be able to get a bunch of fuel in exchange. Now, to be honest, I probably don't need to do the probe again. In this case, I'm just going to use a 2. And in this case, we get 4 back, so that allows us to get to full fuel. That couldn't have worked better for us. So now we'll go to the garden planet, and really the aim here with the garden planet is just to land and soak up the oxygen. There's really nothing else that we can do, even if we wanted. So again, I have the option of drilling, but it seems to me here that it's probably better that we just take off and save. Now I should note that the rates at which the various resources are being diminished those are actually determined by the way that the ship is built. So if you notice here, ecosystem 20, that's pretty low, and as it says here, the better the ecosystem, the less oxygen the ship consumes. we can contrast this to performance. The higher the performance, the less fuel the ship consumes. And then comfort is more about morale, if I recall correctly. Yeah, so apparently -2 morale per trip. Although we always seem to be at 100. Hey, what gives? Okay. So the way, this game is not a full roguelike, but it does seem to have sort of a roguelike flavor to it, in the sense that, now again, we've not actually lost. It's felt like we've lost, but we seem to have actually avoided the fail state proper up to this point. The way this game works is that if you visit one of these, if for whatever reason you lose, you come back to the last time you saved at one of these. If you just shut down your game, it will pick up from the last planet that you were on. So the idea is that if you visit one of these things, you have locked in your progress up to that save point. And in fact, if you want, you can reset your playthrough. So for instance, we wound up in a situation where it seemed like we might have encountered a bug where we would, Sergei would not be on the crew, but he would show up in all the cutscenes and that. And I said, rather than run the risk of being in a situation like that, let's just reset the playthrough and do it properly. So in that case, I just reset at the last save, which still meant we lost some progress, but I think overall was probably the right call, given the fact that it probably would be very weird to have a character who's no longer a member of the crew just keep popping up in cutscenes and like telling you to do things. And the worst I could imagine would be if there is a quest that requires Sergei's presence, which, you know, we wouldn't be able to satisfy. Now the tricky part here is that it may have turned out that, in fact, that is working as intended, and that Sergei would just show up later. There's always a danger that, you assume something is a bug when in reality it's just things working a little bit off expectations. It's actually one funny thing about games, right? Which is we acknowledge, it's like, if you think about a movie, there are definitely like goofs and like mistakes inside of movies, but for the most part they're fairly subtle, and if you notice them, it's it's fun. Like, you're watching the Roman legions, conquer Gaul, and like somebody's got a watch that they forgot to take off, right? Like that's not something that's really gonna... I know some people will be like, oh, it pulled me out of the reality of the film. I'll never forgive them for that. But like, for the most part, like, this stuff happens, and you can have a good laugh about it, but like, chances are it's a well-told story, and you're wrapped up in it. If you're... Khaleesi at a Starbucks because she needs her coffee. I want to know who... So I've heard that story. I've not seen the moment. But I kind of want to know... Like, there's a number of failures that happen there, right? So, like, the camera operator is sort of responsible for calling if the boom is in the shot. That is their responsibility. We live in an age now of, like... Video Village, a lot of stuff. I think Game of Thrones was still shot on 35mm film, but like for the most part, like directors and producers are actually able to see, if not what's going on through the lens, something really close to that at Video Village. But the thing is that somebody's still responsible, and traditionally the camera operator has been responsible for calling the boom in the shot. In fact, there's something of a rivalry between the camera department and the sound department, and I suspect it's because sound had us locked in boxes at the start of talkies, and we've never forgiven them. But in the case of so what'll happen sometimes is, like, if the camera operator like blew the shot, what they'll sometimes do is they'll like move the camera up a little bit and say that the boom was in the shot. And this is like a nasty trick, right? Because you're making the boom guy look like a clown who ruined it. And of course, what you're doing is you're covering your backside by, claiming something went wrong. I have heard a story where apparently the boom operator caught on, and so would have a tendency to sort of lift the boom when they noticed that trick happening. And so eventually, like, what would happen is, like, the camera's basically looking at the ceiling, and the operator's kind of trying to call the shot. And again, if you've got Video Village set up, I think everybody's kind of caught on what game is being played here. But yeah, so, like, there's that responsibility. On the other hand, right, like, in terms of, like, the viewfinder, like, there's only so much stuff that you can see. So, somebody noticing a coffee cup on the table, like, you're trying to compose a shot. Like, chances are you're not really going to be looking at the set decoration that much. So then I would point out that there is usually a continuity supervisor. So one thing you may find interesting is that for most films, there's going to be a document alongside the footage, and it's going to be sort of the script supervisor, the continuity supervisor, making notes of all of the continuity breaks, all of the details from previous shots that don't line up. So, like, all those people who are like, oh, ha ha ha, the door was open, and in fact you can see in this angle here it was closed. Chances are there is actually a note somewhere that says it. The thing is like, who cares, right? Braveheart, right? You've got a scene where Mel Gibson's like running across the plain towards the English, and he's got his claymore out in one shot, and then they cut away, and then it cuts back to him, and he's just running with his fists, and that's all, and cut away and cut back, and he's got an axe in one hand, and then cut back, and then cut, like, it's a big moment when the Scottish are charging the English, and like, nobody cares. Like, if you're really focusing on that stuff, the failure is that the movie has not engaged you, to a point where you don't care about that sort of stuff. But again, chances are there is a series of notes, and part of it is also just covering the script supervisor, or I can't remember if it's script supervisor continuity. I had to ask them for like the scene numbers and stuff like that, but like they're sort of the person you would expect to be looking for all of those kinds of details. And again, if there's a Starbucks sitting on the table, maybe like point it out. I would suspect that probably the person most directly responsible for that failure is would be the script supervisor. Now, again, there's also the possibility that this was known, and that they said they were happy with the take, either they were running out of time or that it otherwise worked, and they decided to sacrifice. I've had a moment actually, and I was partly responsible. I was the trainee, so like in the end, sort of the second is directly responsible, but like I could have as easily pointed this out as well. But there was a show I was working on where we had some like little sandbags which we put down for marks for the blocking, but the camera was going to sort of crane up and take a big like high shot, and we totally did not take them out. And it's super late at night and everybody's getting ready to wrap up, and like neither of us wanted to admit this, but it's like the worst thing you can do is have that be important, and like everybody's packed up and then they have to come back and reshoot the scene. So we did, like, we went over and we said, it's like, okay, look, I know you said this is the shot you want, I know you worked hard, but like we didn't move the sandbags. Like, there's colored sandbags on the ground. And like the producer was there. And like, yeah, we'll just remove it digitally. I said, like, really? Like, that sounds like that's gonna cost money. It's like, bah, no, don't worry about it. I think they were looking at the overtime of keeping everybody around for another shot. They're like, it's not going to cost as much as painting those out. But yeah, honestly, though, the person who really should be yelled at about it is whatever dummy walked into the middle of like a properly decorated set and decided to park their Starbucks down there. Now, with that in mind, that could have been an actor that did it, and like, you don't yell at actors. But like, come on, guys, like, you've got your own little spots for crews. You know, you can put your coffee there. You don't need to put it on the set. Particularly because like people are going to be working on it, right? So the chances of knocking it over and like, what, do they have spare? Well, it's Game of Thrones. They probably did have like duplicates of everything, but I don't know. Like, who wants to be the one who like kept a drink on a table and then somebody knocked it over, and then that's the reason why you now need to replace like everything that was on that table because it's soaked. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so in that case, like if it's the actors, then they're probably that's probably why nobody got fired over that. Anyways, that was a very long journey to a place which probably wasn't that important. Let us go to the mythical Earth. Now, we're kind of lucky here. We've got a little bit of everything. So the red supergiant's going to give us rocky planets. The yellow dwarf's going to get us garden planets. We'll probably skip both of them unless we want to try and go on an expedition. And looks like it costs us the same no matter what, so I'm going to go for the one that gives me slightly... Well, I guess this gives me more options in terms of places to go, so let's actually visit the red supergiant. I'm really terrible in that I don't know any of the actors' names. I guess Jason Momoa, because that was like a breakout role for him, but... And then there's that Sean Bean guy, I guess he's a name that I remember. I'm just trying to think if there's any other actors that I know. I think one of the directors of photography was Rob McLaughlin. That's a name I remember. All right, chewing gum. Soft, malleable shapes are becoming stuck to the exterior of our ship. The engineer tells us that these strange particles are doing a lot of damage to the hull. They advise us to get rid of them quickly. So we could accelerate the ship or dissolve them. Sure, let's actually dissolve them. Our engineer manages to manufacture a solution capable of dissolving the strange particles, life forms. We administer the solution directly into the objects attached to our hull. It works very quickly, and soon our ship is clean again. As we set off, we come to a much larger version of the strange things. Behind this free-floating lump, we find an abandoned ship. Its crew was much less fortunate than us. It seems that they abandoned their craft when the hull's integrity failed. Okay, well, there's always a chance that we can get something better. Oh, it's a cool looking ship at least. Okay, lesser performance, better ecosystem, better resistance, lower comfort, one less slot. So that kind of on its own tells me I don't want to take this. Like, so I figure stuff like performance, ecosystem resistance, that stuff can be improved through building modules. But spaces can't be restored. Actually, I'm wondering... Okay, I'm sorry to count that. Well, okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so 7, 14, 21. So then there's another 4, so that's 25, 26. Yeah, so what I wanted to make sure was it wasn't counting... I wanted to make sure that it wasn't docking the damage section. So I think probably the determining factor for switching ships for me is more than I mean, I should probably take a minute to think it through, but I think the most likely case is that I'm going to upgrade a ship when I when I have more slots. Now, in order to increase my comfort, I guess it doesn't say how many crew I could sustain on this as well. One thing I will do is just sort of pair off the different modules. So we've got here and here, here and here, here and here, here and here, here and here. Yeah, so we've got the basics. So one thing that is very intriguing is just how good the resistance is. So this is like one of these cases where I do kind of wish I could look into a little more detail about my modules, because if my performance, for instance, is coming from, one of these modules, well, I'd probably be willing to give that up. Comfort probably is coming from this module, so I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, I should actually probably take a minute to write down what my base values for the different traits are. In any case, I don't want to spend too much time thinking about this, so I'm going to disable everything. Load all the cargo that we can. We'll repair whatever hull we can. We'll grab the fuel. And I think we'll call it. But what I am going to do is get a slightly better idea of what my ship is capable of. So its base value. Actually need to make some adjustments to the... So I'm just writing this down in my notes. So we're at 70 performance now. 20 eco, 50 resistance, 60 comfort, and then 5 of 6 crew. Okay. So base value 60. Still at the base value for ecosystem. Base value 40. Okay. So like if we look at a comparison here, half of the performance of my existing ship. However, double the ecosystem. 10 less resistance. Sorry. 30 more resistance than my current ship. And also 10 comfort. So one other way of looking at this would be, so if we take a look at the differences, ignoring everything else, so negative 30 plus 20, so that's net negative 10. The resistance would be plus 30, so that's now a plus 20 overall. And then the comfort is plus 10. So in terms of raw numbers, I'm down one slot, but in terms of like the different traits, like I give up one slot and then the overall numbers for the ship are actually better. So what I mean to say is, right, so I was talking about how like the base performance was 60, ecosystem 20, base resistance is 40, base comfort's 25. One thing I'm going to do in future when evaluating ships is to look not just at the slots, but also to take a look at what the base stats of that ship were. Because let's say I had a ship where the base values were, I don't know, 70, 30, 50, 35. That would mean that of all of the base values, it's 10 above what I would start with. And if it were to be just one slot less, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm giving up a slot for that. But I'm giving up a slot which potentially would have been used to try and bring the performance back to what I had before. Now it could be that there were some other ships. So this is one of those ships. As far as the numbers are concerned, this ship as a whole is a little bit better in terms of the total values of its different traits. this could have been an improvement in terms of performance characteristics in exchange for one slot. So, you know, maybe this is a time where I would have considered switching it out. But for the time being, you know, I've already dismantled a bunch of stuff. Like I'm going to accept that this is not a viable ship for me anymore. And what I'll just do is in future, I'll try and have a slightly more kind of broad view in terms of what I'm looking for when it comes to these ships. Okay, so the next question before me is, do I want to try and explore any of these planets? The pro is that I'm able to do another expedition, which means I'm able to get more experience. And the cons are that they take up precious resources, namely fuel and oxygen. We're doing okay for those, though, so I am going to take a minute here and investigate some of these planets. Okay, so that doesn't have anything that I want. We're also at full hull, so there's really no argument for... landing to get the iron or anything. This is just purely looking for exploration opportunities, and worst that happens is I burn a few resources and move on. Yeah, so we burn the resources. We got some stuff off of the ship, so I can't be too mad about that. Now, Yellow Dwarf if I want to get some more oxygen, but honestly, we're already going to a new save point, so yeah, I mean, we'll go there anyway. But I might just visit. Okay, well. Okay, so the Alpha Anomaly, it's a village, wants 2 survival, we get Omega, or Temple, 3 engineering. So they're equally dangerous. I think I'll go for the Alpha Anomaly just because it requires 2 of the survival skill as opposed to 3 of the engineering, so it's slightly less costly. And we're not going to drill, we'll just go on the expedition. And as always, do we bring Pakistan or Aleb? I'll try bringing Aleb again to help with the experience. Well, I mean, there is always the danger that we kill this guy. Okay, so there's nothing for Nyx to equip. I usually like giving Sergei the lockpicking kit. Ventilated suit might be an idea here. I will do Adornment of the Abyssal. It's a common item. Okay, yeah, so my survivalists don't really have any items to work with. Wait a minute. And that bleeding, it's asphyxia, so... The other option is Tourist Guide to the Galaxy when a village is explored. You know what? I'm going to bring the Tourist Guide to the Galaxy because we know we're visiting a village anyway. So, of course, I'm giving myself a higher risk with one of my weaker crew members. But the reason I'm bringing the weak crew member is to be able to level them up and give them a little more health. What could possibly kill us here? Oh man. Oh no, hang on. There's an area for us to go through. I was like, this is just a corner of death. Actually, that's a little more vicious than I thought it was. That might actually force you through 2 dangerous spots, so I'll have to keep an eye out for it. Okay, that's not the objective, so it looks like we may get 14 experience when all is said and done here. Okay, again, we want to avoid damage where we can. Okay. So we're going to have to start making some choices about damage pretty early. I still think the right call here is to move and then... Well, no. This is a little different from how I like to handle it, but I am actually going to enter the village. Us Oxlim Dream God Loran, Roar Lencorfus, Roar Nindad Oxlim. Us. Well, I don't know what in Revoca means. Now let's try it. A deep roar from the alien makes us take a few steps back. It turns its back on us and refuses to address us again. The other inhabitants quickly follow suit. So if we want to trade, it's probably going to be on pretty brutal terms. I guess, fortunately, there's not a lot that we need. I mean, platinum might be kind of nice for construction, but yeah, they're annoyed at us, so let's just leave the village. Okay, this is gonna get a little scary. Alright. 1 health every 2 rounds. Oh god. I am gonna have to go back through this. Okay. They look the same! Oh god, I really hope it's Igadia. No! So Sergei could be doing better, but we're not quite in the danger zone yet. This is definitely a nasty set of traps for us, though. I still don't know. So basically, we still don't know where the objective is, and there's a few traps waiting for us. Oof. Okay, we'll do the ritual purification. Well, okay, no, we've got better options. So, our expedition encounters an ancient primitive temple. It is made of a single labyrinthine path containing many pools and no roof. The mummified bodies of former pilgrims lie prostrate before the pools. The water itself is murky, but is it actually water? Analyze the water. Our engineer performs a scan of one of the pools. They detect traces of a mineral substance that we can refine. We set up a filtering device, and in the space of a few hours, we've accumulated a small fortune. Despite our new wealth, the mystery of this place remains unsolved. Okay. Well, there's the objective, so... And it's Nick, so I feel a little bit better about that. We arrive in a village. The population is welcoming, yet wary. We are keen to learn about their guardian god, a simple stone statue we suspect is full of Omega. We are not allowed to approach the object until we go through the clan's ritual trials. We could take part, but the village inhabitants won't describe what the trials entail. Send the survivalists to tackle the trials. this will be a Nick's job. The trials are formidable. First, our survivalist is tattooed using Omega, an incredibly painful process. Second, they are told to hunt down a particularly elusive predator, which they manage after 2 nights of tracking. Finally, they must spend an entire night alone, meditating before the clan's stone god. During this trial, they spend the dark hours quietly siphoning the Omega contained within the figure. We leave at dawn, magnificent cargo in tow. Okay, mission accomplished. I am still going to try and plunder what I can, but this is going to be a bit scary health-wise. I also have the option of evacuating with the ship, but this is still a chance for me to use up some of my skills to heal up the crew. Okay. I really wish I did not have to cross this many obstacles, but I'm just gonna assume that there was not something I wanted to check out there. Alright, so I got a few things that I want to do now. So, one, we will let my botanist collect some plants. Next up, no target available. Okay, would prefer not to have done this, but there we go. And then Nyx. There we go. We actually managed to take out everybody's skill points this time, and everybody's at full health. Successful expedition. And we got our coveted levels up. So, oh wow, that's actually a really good haul for experience. 116, 20 for the objective, 10 for the event, 55 for skills. So over half, or sorry, just slightly under half for skills. Also harvest and of course visiting the village. It turns out, or I'm going to assume at least, that because there's only 1 + 7 for the village, it did not count the overall objective, which feels kind of mean, but that's life. Plants, minerals, Omega, lockpicking kit, and holographic scanner. Okay, so I think we're going to do the same trick with Sergei. Go for the skill. We can lower the cost of minerals. Nah, health is better. Definitely health for them. And I think we'll go for the skill points. So, I mean, 4 health is still not anything to write home about, but better than what we started with. Okay, so we will refine the minerals first. So far we haven't found anything useful. Yeah, we're actually at 20 gold, so... But the cobalt and tungsten will carry the day. Usually there's an icon if they can be used for one of these. Okay, plants. So this I'm pretty much automatically going to put into the greenhouse just because we don't have... Like, we just don't have any other plants in there right now. So, +3 morale per xenolinguist, +5 morale every 6 trips used on a ship with performance of 60 or more, we're at 70. And then +5 morale each time a module is constructed. Now, the fact is, we're probably not going to construct that many modules, so I think these 3 are best, but we may actually have 4 spaces. No. Alright, well, definitely going for these. Additional morale each time. So I'd recycle it, but in this case, we'll just chuck it. That's going to last us 18 turns, so I'm pretty happy with that. And again, I'd recycle, except that we're already at full oxygen. Okay, no reason to drill, so we'll take off. And I suppose the question is, do I want to... So if I go here, I can save, but I can make more progress towards Mythical Earth. I think in this case, I'm actually going to go straight for Mythical Earth. And I don't think it really matters which of these 2 I go for, although I noticed that it actually costs slightly less to visit this red dwarf, so we're going to head here. An adorable 6-legged critter has found its way onto the ship. She quickly becomes the crew's mascot. After only a short time, however, she starts begging for food and becomes somewhat aggressive. We decide to follow her one evening, only discover that she has given birth to a dozen young. What should we do? Have the critters adopted or keep the critters? We will have them adopted. We find a population who seem delighted with the creatures. They agree to give them a home and, as thanks, present us with a gift. As we walk away, the creature cries and lifts one paw towards us. We got a trinket and our morale decreased. I think we're going to skip the rocky planet here. White dwarf's sadly out of range. I think we're going to go for the blue giant for the... Neither of their tribbles kill them all. How you doing, Aperture Science? So I did this so that I could access the fuel. I don't think there's ever anomalies to check out on gas giants, so this is purely fuel extraction. Okay, so helium goes into storage, hydrogen. Honestly, we don't really need to go any further, but I will hit it with another 4. And I think I'll just call it at that. We'll move on to the next system. So hang on a minute. Okay, nope, everybody's assigned. The Card Club. Over the course of our long mission, the crew has grown particularly fond of card games. One of the frequent players suggests starting a club, saying the aim would be to train for intergalactic competitions. Our captain fears a lack of commitment from her crew, but the idea of competing against other groups is rather tempting. Let's create the club. The club is allowed as long as it only operates during rest periods. A sponsor hears the news and sends us a gift in order to motivate everyone for the next competition. The players are delighted. And we've gained a strange device. Alright, I do need to wrap things up, but I also know I'm going to be making mistakes if I don't think about... like if I if I start in this system, I'm going to wonder which I visited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit the planets, I'm going to go to the save spot, and then I think we'll call it for tonight, just because I'm actually feeling a little more alert than I was about an hour or two ago, but I do have some things I need to get through tonight. And if I can get my sleep schedule sort of sorted over the weekend, then that's going to mean that I'm doing just better casts Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as opposed to, like, you know, going into the wee hours tonight, which may be enjoyable for some, but will come at the cost of kind of equilibrium in the other casts. So let's go. I figure rocky planet for the hull first. We don't really need the fuel. I don't know, I figure rocky planet, gas giant, garden planet, then save. Yeah, so more than enough for us. So probably have to repair the probe at the gas giant, but that's life. Good haul. So I think we'll just leave it there. And then pretty sleepy system, but it's not always bad to... Oh, looks like we have an expedition. All right. Okay, I can go for the simple one, or I could go for the beta anomaly. Now, I think my crew should be... healthy enough for the beta anomaly. If they're not, we can always just take our oxygen and leave the planet. Yeah, okay. So, as always, we'll add Nyx and Sergey. We got Aya. Pegastan is the one that needs the experience now, so we'll send them on the journey. Although I should have seen if I could have equipped them with anything. And as usual, we start by scouting out locations that don't require me to take damage, and then following that, we go through the dangerous areas to achieve sort of maximum transportation at the lowest health cost. So for instance here, 25% doesn't really matter which one. However, we may need to also cross this nasty fellow. So it does look kind of open up here. Sacre bleu! So I'm not going to freak out about healing quite yet. I do want a slightly better idea of what I'm up against. Ouch. I really like suffocating me. Alright. We're definitely going to need to do some healing at some point, but Again, trying to get the mileage I can. Now this is a real danger here, because this is potentially going to close me off from healing. We arrive at a very strange kind of settlement. From a distance, the entire location is almost completely invisible. Its dwellings are made of a porous, almost transparent material that is thin and very light to the touch. We can find no inhabitants anywhere. Who could have lived here? Why has it been constructed to such odd specifications? So we could explore, analyze the civilization, or search the area. In this case, I'm going to search the area with Pakistan. Our engineer constructs a machine capable of detecting local energy sources, of which there are many. Many thousands of energy sources, it would seem, all of them weak and moving? The engineer realizes the city isn't abandoned at all. It is quite alive, teeming with residents, though we cannot see them with our eyes. After establishing a way of communicating with them, they give us a bit of information about the area. It should prove useful. So, wormhole generator technology. Well, I think we've gotten this tech like 3 times. So apparently wormhole generators are like a really common technology in this world. Now, I'm definitely not going through the... Actually, you know what? I don't think it matters, because... No. It's just one here. But yeah, so there's two hits of the asphyxiation, or 1. So I think 1 is preferable. Oh, okay, the second just comes later. Let's go in deeper. Okay, so this is a danger here. 1 health every 2 rounds. You can do that to yourself, right? Our expedition arrives in a village without a single living soul to be found. Our detectors soon reveal the reason. There's an extreme level of radioactivity in the area, making it unfit for life. It seems the radioactivity killed everything here, and quite recently. There are still corpses in the streets, those of village inhabitants that dragged themselves from their homes before perishing. We can't stay here long. Our suits will only provide so much protection. What should we do next? Contain the radiation. Our engineer devises a temporary shield to protect the group from the effects of the radiation. With this to aid us, we begin our exploration of the village. We discover the source of the radiation, a deep space probe that crashed and was carried into the village by its inhabitants. It houses very valuable technology. That isn't all. We also discover a small alien being huddled in an isolated nook. They are clearly alone. We decide to take them with us. We have saved them from a terrible, lonely fate. Sergei has lost 3 action points, Calais has joined the crew, and all blueprints are already in the database. Well, I'm so glad that we risked our lives. Good God. Okay. Potential damage here. Yeah, so there's 2 potential hits. I'm definitely going to heal up first. So why can't Sergei do this? Alright, that's the start. At least we got some minerals out of it. Looks like we can also visit a village as well, although whether we have the skills for it is another question. Planet Us, Camerson's Us. Us fear, give Gronsare Planet Us. us in Revoca Lenork. The alien does not appear to react to our response. Okay, trade's always nice. Not really a whole lot that we need, though. So Alago is a somewhat tempting option. But I'll go without. Okay, and just check. Yeah, so we only have one more risk to walk over. Okay, so cataplasm on myself. And now what we're going to do is try to... We're going to try and use up the points where I can. Okay, so this uses up plants, this just uses up points, so we'll start with Nyx. And then Sergey. Oops. Nyx and then Sergey. Oh, one expedition member, right. And I don't think there's any way that I can get Sergey to use those last couple of points. Do you want to board the ship and end the expedition? Yes. Okay, I definitely feel that this combination of abilities is better. Like, honestly, giving up an action point to find new minerals I don't really use. The nanostabilizers are tempting because of the, like, cutting the cost in half is a pretty significant bonus, but I just generally think the ability to do more, like, those skills do wind up being very helpful, and so I'm slightly more inclined to follow up on that. Now, unfortunately, I'm probably going to want to kick Calais out of the party for the simple reason that they don't have a lot of skills that I need right now. But I don't know. We'll be able to sort of wait it out, and I'll replace them when I have a better option rather than just sort of doing that out of hand. And let's see if we get any goodies. I'm not going to complain about a free Omega. And how is the plants doing? Okay, so there's definitely some good plants here. So this thing's getting replaced. So I guess the easiest thing for me to do is to replace the expiring things. So 5 per 6, 3 per 4. So I guess 5 for 6 in the long run gives me slightly more. If I feel like I'm going to get another Xenolinguist, this is better, but I don't think I am. So, but this is only good for one turn. Well, this is easy. 5 or more crew members, we definitely have that. Okay, so these last longer. Yeah, so this lasts longer, and then... So here's the logic behind why I did this way. I don't know if it'll tell us how long before we trigger. 6 turns, 6 turns, 6 turns. Okay, 3 turns here. But yeah, so the logic behind this is basically saying that it's like, okay, so you get 5 morale every 6 trips. So the way I tried to normalize it is just say it's like, okay, so how much per jump do you basically get? So it's not 1 per trip, it's, something less than 1. But then I can compare it, so 3 for 4, 5 for 6. And I don't know about you, but like, I'm not particularly good at the math that says, which of these 2 fractions is higher. The one way you could get around this would be if you multiply this one by 3, that takes you to 12, so that gives you 9/12. And then if you multiply the Bellavalia by 2, that gives you 10 over 12, and that's going to tell you that the 10 over 12 is worth more. But because we live in the age of calculators, what I actually did was just go 5 divided by 6 gives me 0.83. 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. I think everybody knows that, and so 0.83 is slightly higher. So the idea here is that in the long run, if I adopt that approach, I am going to have a larger amount of morale that is generated using these plants. Do I think that's going to move the needle in terms of the overall like for the overall run? Do I think this is going to mean the difference between me winning and losing? Not really, but I don't know. It's a nice way of just sort of ensuring that you're giving yourself a few little extra edges, so that when you run into things like I had to give up my pet. If I take a hit to my morale that way, being able to do little optimizations like that are nice ways to just sort of iron out some of the problems that you run into. Plus, you learned a fun math trick. When's the last time you've had to figure out the common denominator? Okay, so I will confess I was like a little inclined to actually go 1 more jump, but it occurred to me that if I do that, I'm probably going to make it to Mythical Earth, and if I give myself a couple of jumps at the start of the next Out There stream, that gives people enough time to come in, but it isn't such a long period of time that I'm taking forever to get to the next objective. So I think it is a good time to end it here. If you want other stuff to extend the life of the stream, I can go over one of the articles that I wrote, like the Whiplash or the Unity article, but I'm assuming those of you who wanted to hear those have already read them. And then I do have an article I was going to publish. The problem I'm running... Okay, actually, I will make a confession here. So one of the reasons I want to end at the time that I do is that I still have half an hour of writing to do. And I finally found the drawback to the approach that I've taken. Because I need to edit, too. Obviously, there's the saying, it's not just writing, it's rewriting. And to a certain extent, some of the rewrites I'm able to keep a word count, but other times, like when I have something that I've written, like what I'll normally do is I'll write out the first draft in something like Word, and then when it's ready to go into the blog, normally the articles will be too long. So the Unity article, for instance, I think is about 4,000 words now, which is still a really long article compared to most stuff. Like if you read a column in The Guardian, I think that usually works out to be about 800 words or something. But Axios are masters at this. Like they've got really small articles, but like they're dense. Like there's definitely content there, and I really wish I had their ability. I think the Axios founders are doing a book specifically on short writing. But But yeah, so the drawback is that like I've well, actually I can show you. Let me just take a second here. I know this won't be like super interesting, but it also won't take a long time. So, like what you can see here, this may not be the clearest, but basically since June 15th, I've sort of recorded how many minutes I wrote. Like sometimes it's been quite literally just 30 minutes and there you go. This one, it was 19 minutes because I was editing. And then of course you can see other day, like there was one day, this is I think the day I did the Unity article, 180 minutes. In a lot of these cases, I will actually be wanting to write more, but a lot of these wind up being like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I kind of force myself to stop. And that's sometimes just because, again, I'm really bad at building the habit. And so I've had these like games of chicken with myself in terms of like it getting later and later, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to bed till I write. It's like, well, I don't want to write. Well, then you're not going to bed. And then eventually I'm like, okay, I guess I'll write. I get it done. But so far this has been unbroken. As you can see, it's up to the 4th. So I need to do it for today. Should stop getting distracted tonight. I will always come up with an excuse to distract myself. But yeah, the one drawback to this approach is that, so I'll write an article the first time, and then part of the editing is to write from the start the article in WordPress. And I find that's really good for just cutting out some of the nonsense. It is kind of cheating sometimes because then I'm just sort of transposing, but I notice that most of the stuff that I wind up cutting, it winds up being sort of substantive enough that I can kind of count that as a form of writing. All subsequent editing, though, normally winds up me just sort of like adjusting a few paragraphs here and there. And like, that's a hard one to kind of keep track of productivity for, because like really the advantage here is cutting words or rearranging words rather than adding new ones. So essentially the metric here is sort of new words added. And just because I'm sort of interested in sort of normalizing and figuring out what the actual rate is, I'll calculate a words per minute. And then I just added myself like a column for interrupted. So like if I have to do something in between, or sometimes a lot of the yeses actually wind up me being doing some research. And again, that's another drawback. Yep, exactly. I think it's Pascal, although I notice a lot of people credit Mark Twain with that. Although Mark Twain seems to get a lot of quotes attributed to him that he didn't actually say. But I absolutely believe it. I mean, I think most of you who watch the stream also know that I'm just very verbose. So it's something I'm working on to say. Yeah, that's right. Einstein also gets a lot of quotes attributed to him. But yeah, so this has actually been probably the most reliable tool for me, like keeping myself disciplined as far as writing is concerned. Like I said, what I'm learning is now that I've actually done a fairly good job of keeping somewhat regular output. And I would argue, like, there's definitely been a couple of nights where I'm like, I'm really not happy with what I wrote here. But like, for the most part, stuff that I'm reasonably happy with, like the substance of what I wrote. But the catch is now that I actually have a couple of things which I'm kicking around. And there's a couple where I'm wondering about whether or not the articles are sort of worth putting out. Because, not every opinion I have necessarily needs to be shared with the grander world. Actually, somebody left a very nice comment, wrote in an email about the Unity article, which I was pleased with, because they're somebody who I like their writing quite a bit. And specifically, like they're not necessarily, well, I don't think they're well known for their essays, but like I really like some of the essays that they've written. Arguably one of the things that maybe they get less credit for than I think they deserve. Their reputation is certainly more for their fiction. But yeah, in any case, it's not much, but what's interesting about this is less the law. Like, definitely there's something nice. So this is mostly about just sort of forming habits or how I've gotten past that point. So like one of the things actually is just about setting a reasonable goal. So I'll be honest with you, I don't think I should be setting a goal of 30 minutes. I'd actually like to extend this out to an hour, but because I have created a system under which I'm writing at like 4 a.m. a lot, I need to roll that in. I would love to do it first thing in the morning, but there's also a few things like I've been trying to exercise more regularly. So, get up in the morning, work out, do some French. It would be nice to clean myself, maybe have some breakfast, brush my teeth, basic things that stop me from falling apart. And then there's only so much time between then and starting work. I haven't really been able to work writing as a first thing in the day sort of thing. Also, I'm not like 100% at the start of the day, so I may not be one of those people who can do that. But yeah, definitely a realistic target at the start. As you can see, it was something where once I kind of got the ball rolling, all of a sudden I moved from, I got to do my half hour now to, no, I'm on a roll. Give me the 90. But the other thing that I've liked about this, because again, like for me, I'm very data oriented. I like some of these, I like this stuff generally. I like being able to do, analysis. So the big thing about this was less being able to account for productivity, although that's part of it. It's also to be able to just get some basic statistics. So for instance, my worst words per minute, it's 8.88. But I did a max. My best was 42.81. Now just for reference, like my WPM in terms of like just taking a prompt and writing it out, or like writing dictation or something like that, it's like 80 or 90 words per minute. So I'm at, half to a third or lower. I guess let's say 80. So I'm less than a quarter of what I can do if it's just a matter of typing out words. But this is the thing, like writing is not just putting letters one after another. You actually do need to put some thought in terms of what you're putting down. So what has interested me lately is that there have been a couple of times, there's a couple of these which have really high numbers. So maybe this 960 day, I definitely feel like this was one of those days. The couple of the more productive days I've noticed are when I do some more sort of free association for like working on fiction, or like just generally coming up with flights of fancy, and part of it is just a matter of like clearing the blocks and getting stuff down. And it used to be that the mean and the median were actually really tightly combined, but there have been enough of those sort of free association days now that it is actually starting to alter the mean. So I'm getting, I don't know, about 2.5 words a minute adjustment from that. So that's one of the reasons why I keep those. But the other thing I like about this is that it does give me a theory. So it were to be like, if somebody kind of comes down from the heavens and says, you need to write an article for The Guardian, how long is it going to take you? You only get one draft. I can know that based on past performance, the longest it would take me would be 84 and a half minutes. That's based on the WPM of 888. My worst day on July 7th, a day that will live in infamy. If it were to be like my best sort of free association time, I'd have that done in less than 20 minutes. And the more reasonable expectation would be about 45 minutes. Which, if you think about it, right? Like, so if you're going to say it's like, okay, write a novel. And it's like, oh God, that's going to take me forever. Well, it's like, well, even at, 30 minutes, it's not unreasonable, right? Like, what would it take me? So let's say if I were to set a target of 1,000 words a day, which is a pretty low target, and let's just take the median as more representative. So that'd be an hour a day at that rate. And then, I don't know, like 50,000 words, like in theory, maybe 50,000 is kind of short for a novel, but like 50,000 words, that's less than 2 months. Also, I haven't taken any breaks. I feel like I probably should build breaks into this. But the thing I like about this is that like there's ways that you can quantify it, right? So it's like, okay, you can get an article. Like the thing is that you can say it's like, okay, well maybe you don't want to do the like one step at a time. You write 1,000 words a day for 50 days, and you've got a good progress on something long form. Because honestly, if I'm going to write fiction, I'd like to write short fiction. I feel like there's probably more to be learned from that than trying to, write something like, I like Neil Stephenson, so I like really long books. But I think the thing that interests me the most is that obviously I do a lot in terms of nonfiction. I do a lot in terms of writing like essays and articles and things like that. So the idea of saying is like, okay, so if you wanted to try and do short form, like a short form nonfiction thing, how long would it take you to write one of those? Well, according to my median, it would be less than 45 minutes. So it's like the time it would take me to maybe watch a show, and I could have, basically like a newspaper column. And to me, and again, part of this is just sort of tricking yourself into knowing that you can do this sort of stuff. Like if somebody says like, okay, you need to write a good analysis. And I'm like, oh God, I can't do that. Well, clearly I can, right? My blog is full of that sort of stuff. But again, you're starting with a blank page and you're like, I've lost all of my abilities and this is terrible. I'm never going to recover the abilities. I'm just going to bring the music back. And then you can turn it around and say, it's like, okay, so, I read something from Charlie Brooker recently because he has a column in The Guardian. That's why I'm mentioning The Guardian, by the way. It's not like I read it regularly, but Charlie Brooker is a contributor. So every once in a while, I'll read something clever from him. And it's like, okay, so, write something that long. How long would it take you? It's like, oh, less time than it would take for me to watch a good TV show. Well, I like watching TV as much as the next person, but like, really, I'm going to give up writing, to watch a TV show? That's a considerably like less intimidating proposition to be able to say like you could, if you got your word count and, under control, it would take you less than an hour to write something like what you just saw. Well, okay, quality wise, it's not going to be great, but to me, that is a much better way of sort of short circuiting myself out of my inertia for a lot of writing stuff. Hopefully, for those of you who have ambitions to try and do something, I really do not like the tendency now for people like, okay, there's two things I dislike about the what I'm noticing that sort of passes for advice. I notice there's a lot of self-help stuff, but it's like written in a slightly more macho, like put a picture of a steak on the blog instead of like a flower, but it's still self-help. And it feels like these are people who just read self-help books and sort of parrot it back and just phrase it in a slightly different way. And more importantly, they tell people the stuff that they want to hear, whether or not it works or not. So there's a lot of stuff about like, hacking yourself or optimizing your life or whatever. Apparently this stuff has its origins in like Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week. I've never read it. So, but like this name seems to keep coming up over and over and over again. And like the thing I always keep seeing when I read these books is like, who is this guy? Like, what have they done to put themselves in this position to tell me what to do? It's like, oh, well, he's got a podcast. It's like, okay, so I get that he's rich. I get he has time to like do a podcast, but like, is he someone who got lucky in the .com era? And like, there's some other jackass at the casino who, would have been doing this podcast on Earth 2 somewhere? Or is this someone of substance? Like, I would love to know the habit of like Patty Chayefsky. Like, how the hell did that guy come up with Network, right? Was he gifted with just this unique genius that, no matter how many times I read Jonathan Swift You know, no matter how many words of Orwell I read, you know, I can read politics in the English language every morning, and I can think about how that applies to today, and I can like get all of Chayefsky's, you know, written material, even his TV stuff, and I can read it over and over and over again, and I'm never going to get close to having the insight that he did in writing that. Or is it really just he took the time, he practiced his craft, and, you know, Network just happened to be the one that just hit it out of the park and got made, so I was able to see it. You know, again, that's something I wrestle with all the time, right? And like, this could be, maybe you like comics, and maybe you read Alan Moore, and you're like, well, that guy seems to have written a lot of stuff, and like, all the stuff I've read is super good. Also, really popular subject for film adaptations, which I know he's annoyed by, but he took the money. Sorry, I've really blown out the subject here. So that I'll be honest, I don't really care for that stuff, but I can't remember why I was mentioning that I don't care for that stuff. Sorry, I need a minute to kick the hard drive and figure out where it was again. I know I was talking about a bunch of blogs which have like this same style, and I mean, like, James Clear seems to be someone I was about to give advice. Oh, okay, yeah, maybe. Oh yeah. No, I think I kind of know where it is. So yeah, so one tendency that has really I've really struggled against is that there's a lot of this stuff out there, and like, I don't know, like I do sort of feel like keeping a spreadsheet of my you know, my word count is kind of falling into that trap of I don't know if it was advice that I was about to give, but I know exactly. I thank you for that, to Kree, because that gave me the exact reminder I was looking for. Like, so the reason why I want to write is because it makes me happy. I really like avoid it a lot. Like I said, I mean, I've wanted to start writing at 2, and it's 4 o'clock when I actually get around to doing it, and I'm gonna need to fix that. But like, there's no longer the day where it's like, I'm tired, or I don't feel like it. It's like, no, this is the thing that I do every day now, right? You know, same reason I brush my teeth. And writing is one of these things which I know I don't have much of an audience for, but I don't care nearly as much as I do other things. Because it is one of these things that does actually feel like it's its own reward. But like I said, one of the challenges about this approach now, it's helped me build the habit. It's helped me sort of accept when stuff is bad, or, you know, just be able to sort of push through what I think most people would maybe call writer's block. But the cost of that has been that like, I'm in this point now where like rewriting and editing is an important part of the process, and I'm still trying to figure out what the difference is between taking the time to do the editing and that work while still keeping myself accountable for producing new words, as well as, like, basically I kind of want to keep the whole image, the whole process in mind. And I feel like I've put a bit too much emphasis on the stuff that I can measure, which can be a challenge. But I guess that was really just me sharing something. Hopefully that wasn't. I realize that some people are just going to want me to host someone and move on. But I suppose for those of you who have an ambition that maybe you've not been putting quite the same care into, I mean, I've found it helpful, and hopefully somebody here will find something similar. I think the big thing for me is just the ability to like measure the stuff. I think that's really the the part where that worked for me was being able to like quantify, specifically to be able to see those summary statistics and be able to like turn the big demon of, make an article to, you could do a good short article in the time it takes you to watch a TV show, and you've demonstrated you can do this now over a month. But I appreciate that there are some other tasks that are a little bit more difficult. Like one thing I would like to do if I was making a game would be to try and come up with a similar estimate for features. How long does it take to be able to add a new gameplay element? Because a new gameplay element could be anything, right? It could be a puzzle. It could be adding shooting to a game that doesn't have it. It could be polishing UI. And like polishing UI stuff could take you days, whereas adding new gameplay could be something that takes you half an hour. But I still think there's some value in like developing an instinct for being able to estimate that stuff, because that can mean the difference between whether or not, you're able to see a project through or not. Unfortunately, I don't, well, I mean, I'm not making a game anyway, but but I do not have like the resources of like a Rockstar or a CD Projekt Red to like say it'll be available when it's done. There will be a very definite point in which I need to deliver. Anyways, that was like an extra 20 minutes purely dedicated to me, which I think is an interesting subject, but probably is not working for the majority of you. So thank you everybody for hanging out. I am going to take some time to find someone to host. As far as overall plans for the stream, I've got some stuff to record. I am actually going to try and do some more YouTube stuff. I'm not quite ready to say what it is, but there's hopefully going to be more than just Cultist Simulator in the near future, although that will be something that definitely happens alongside Cultist Simulator, not as a replacement to that. I have 2 specific projects in mind. Actually, I guess technically I have 3, but I don't know. Even getting one of these delivered would be nice. But yeah, that's going to be how I spend my weekend, plus spending some quality time with my new book, as well as some of my old books, which maybe I should have read before I got new books. But yeah, Monday I should be back for Old World. It feels like it's been a while. Wednesday we are going to be on to Phantom Brigade because we completed Industries of Titan. And then next Friday, I'm not 100% sure. I'd kind of like to do Out There, but I also kind of feel like it would be nice to do some more Quake. And I think I'll probably decide that based on how I feel on the Friday. But if any of those sound intriguing to you, I hope I'll get a chance to see you stop by. I do want to take a quick second here and say, just give a shout out to Will Shand. So some of you will know him as W. Shand. I knew him in Vancouver. Really nice guy. It's actually his birthday. Now I am going to host somebody else. And it's just because he's got 180 people watching him. He's a Twitch partner. He does not necessarily need the extra attention. But he's definitely somebody who's fun. And if where I host doesn't work for you, I'll just maybe mention that it's a special occasion for him. And if nothing else, Shand is a really fun guy to watch. So definitely somebody to check out. Kilgore Trout is also streaming. He's doing incubation. Time is running out. Now he's just had a big move. So I think he's back to streaming. But again, partnered streamer, plenty of people watching. And who I'm going to host is Outworld. Now, Outworld, I normally host when he's doing Mortal Kombat because, as you can guess from his name, he is primarily a Mortal Kombat streamer and somebody who holds a number of world records for that game. But I happen to know that Outworld really likes the BattleTech franchise. In fact, it's one of the things that we talk about quite frequently. And one of the things I always feel a bit bad for him about is that because so many people watch him for being a fighting game streamer and a speedrunner in that, it's not just the question of him having a lower view count when he's doing BattleTech stuff, but he actually has people like unsub and unfollow him when he goes and plays unexpected stuff like this. I feel a little bit bad about that because I actually know how much he likes Battletech. I also happen to like Battletech, and more importantly, I've never seen MechWarrior 4. I've played MechWarrior 5, but MechWarrior 4 actually looks quite fun. So in this case here, I definitely wanted to give a bit of support to Outworld just because, I don't know, I really like it when people are willing, even if there is like an audience cost, to do something that they are passionate about. And I like being able to support people who are doing that. So there's some wonderful streamers online tonight. I am going to host Outworld though, just because I do want to give him some encouragement for playing outside the box. But I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope you enjoy Outworld's channel.